here. um, what's going on, chat room?
All right.
Hoping my moderator will be here shortly.
All right. You're locked up in a prison in Turkey. I have your wallet. The only
Let me exit
way
Netflix.
I bribe the guards.
Um, hmm. But yeah, so anyway, before I get distracted, today's uh today's live should be fun. We're celebrating International Men's Day. I didn't even know it was today till I saw something a few hours earlier, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Actually, I think it was only an hour early, hour and a half earlier, because I originally was gonna do something else, but I was like, I can do that another day. So we can do International Men's Day. I have absolutely no idea how it's celebrated and when it started, but it seems pretty apropos for the current social climate. Um, you have the manosphere rising in the past few months in prominence in both politics and in culture. And we also, I don't know, people love celebrating holidays. So like, this adds to it. So, for everyone, happy International Men's Day. Um, if anyone, when people come into the chat, maybe they can look up when it started and what it's about more. Since I can't do that while I'm on this vertical live stream. If I was on a PC live stream, I could probably, you know, walk and chew bubble gum at the same time, but I can't do that on a vertical by the nature of how it works. So, unfortunately, that's our limit. Kaylee Kless says hi. What's up, Kaylee? How are you? Sweaty King 65 says hi. What's up, bro? So again, guys, Happy International Men's Day. So let's talk about that. Um, some people might think we don't need one. What's up? Jason Morris says, "What's up, bro? What's up?" Kaylee says, "Good. How about you?" I'm doing well. I'm looking back at my TV screen. If people are wondering, oh, let me move this stuff. But yeah. I don't think International Men's Day has been a long something that's been known that long. I'm guessing probably the past few years. Maybe someone might know. Sweaty King says, "I have a question. Can we pray?" I mean, you can, but I don't pray. I'm not religious. So if you want, you can go right on ahead. Jason says, "Sorry, uh, I'm going to bed." Cool. Have a good evening. Um, yeah, all this kind of fits into, like I said, Happy International Men's Day. Like, uh, I think guys will pick different ways to, express express their masculinity or express their interests. Whether it's through sports, um, gaming, maybe. Yeah, I would say gaming because I think gaming, by and large, is mostly guys in the gaming sphere. So yeah, so gaming, sports, hitting the gym, uh, and you both have traditional and non-traditional, um, you know, uh, gender roles. So you know, someone can be masculine in other ways, I'm sure, other than the conventional ways. But yeah, like I said, so sports, gaming, hitting the gym, um, doing blue collar work, um, taking care of a family, um, working in the STEM field. Um, what else? I mean, many other things I'm sure you guys can think of as well. But again, I might have to go to my other device so I can actually look up more, info about International Men's Day. By the way, if people in the chat room want to pray along with Sweaty King 65, I'm sure he would appreciate that. For someone who uh, holds those beliefs. So, and let me make sure this didn't freeze because yesterday I want to apologize to Agatha Edwards. She's my moderator. She was asking me a bunch of questions, and she sent me a super sticker, and I didn't see any of that stuff because the chat room froze, and I didn't know that I was getting comments, and I don't want people to think if I'm not responding, I'm ignoring them because usually it's either because I'm behind in the chat room when there's a lot of flowing conversation, or it froze, so I just didn't see anything. So that either one of those can happen. Uh, Faid says hello. He said, "Pray for me, please." I don't pray, but I'm sure someone in the chat room can. Um, like I said, if you see Sweaty King 65, he just asked if people want to pray. I don't pray. That's I don't do things like that. um, Antonio says good night, greetings from Germany. Guten Tag, Antonio. Um, but yeah, at least with these comments, I can see that it is flowing. So cool. Mike Jones says beautiful lady. To whom are you referring? Um, I see no ladies on this end of the screen, so don't know what to tell you there. Thanks, Antonio. Have a good evening. I don't know if you were about to leave or whatever, because I'm guessing like Germany, you guys are 7 hours apart from us, or 8 hours apart. I can't remember. Agnes says happy International Men's Day. Thank you, Agatha. It's my little chocolate buddy, guys. So she's and now my moderator. Mike Jones says you are gorgeous. Okay, you're on some Diddy, so you can be removed. So Agatha, when you see weird stuff like that, you can just time them out. Like a lot of people don't realize I have to I have to hold my tongue on what I want to say because I yeah, I would say some when people say some out of pocket stuff, I can go much worse than they can. I don't just because I don't want to lose I don't want to risk losing my monetization. But people, you know, talking recklessly, yeah, I could hurt their feelings. But yeah, I'm gonna look up on my other phone here what um International Men's Day like does is there any what's the significance behind it? So from Wikipedia it says International Men's Day is a global awareness day for many issues that men face, including abuse, homelessness, self deletion, and violence. Celebrated annually on November 19th, the objectives of celebrating an International Men's Day are set out in all the six pillars of International Men's Day. Interesting. Like I've heard of it before, but I didn't really know it was a thing. So, um, first name, last name says India was the nastiest country I've ever been to. I can see that. It's not on my uh, wish list, but I wouldn't mind going. Um, like I've visited, well, most of the Asian countries I've visited, I've already visited the ones I've already wanted to, except for like, eh, well, no, I guess four. Like I haven't been to mainland China and South Korea and a few places in Indochina. So yeah, there's still several places that are on my current itinerary, but India hasn't really been on my itinerary. Um, but eh, I'm thinking of adding it because it's relatively safe compared to some other places. Not that I've been in Southeast Asia, but uh, relative to places here in America. So I might go there. I don't see. I know it's nasty as far as some of the hygiene and the street food and stuff like that, but it also has its good parts as well. Because I mean, it can't be all bad because you got to remember India is the most populous country in the world right now. It's more so than China. They have 1.4 billion people, billion, whereas China's 1.2 billion and shrinking. So if you go anywhere, whether it's New Delhi, Mumbai, and anywhere else, you're going to get the good with the bad just because there's so many people. Agnes says, make sure your phone's not freezing tonight. I'll try. Um, text me if if it does freeze, please. Okay. Uh, first name says if you wore a ball cap, you would pass for Indian. Well, I mean, Indians come in all shades, so uh, people have speculated on my ethnicity since I was a kid. But I'm just foundational Black American. But people have thought I was Caribbean. Some people thought I was biracial. Some people thought I was Ethiopian. Some people thought I was Dominican when I hanged. It was usually relative to the people I was hanging out with. So if I hung out with other Caribbean people, they thought they might think that I'm from the islands themselves. Like maybe like people ask me, was I from Barbados or whatever? Like I haven't even been there. um, when I was hanging out with my Latino friends, people thought I was Dominican, especially if I like might speak Spanish or something. But no, um, if I if I was around some white people, they might ask me, if I'm African or something like that. I'm like, no, I'm black. um, if I was around, other black people, they would ask me if I'm biracial. No, I'm just black, like you are. Uh, but I've never been accused of being Indian. That's the first. That's a first for me. Um, first name says India was the only country whose inhabitants didn't make me feel like I'd lose a fight. That I can understand that because they're not very athletic. Like the guy, I don't know if you saw the Paul Tyson fight, first name, last name. I'm gonna just call you first last, all right? So now I'm gonna just call you FL for short. Just call you FL. So FL. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the Paul Tyson fight, but if you remember on the undercard, the first fight was this Latino guy versus this Indian guy. And the Indian guy was actually a pretty good boxer, aside from the his little theatrics. But you don't see very many athletic Indian men like that. So I had to give the man props. And he was like from India, not like Indian American. Like he was actually from India. So I was like, that's what's up. Because you notice you do not see Indians in the Olympics and professional sports like that because generally they're not very athletic. So if you think if you think India was one of the countries where you can feel like you wouldn't lose a fight, go to Singapore. Not that Singapore people are weak, but I mean they've been because it's the safest country in the world. No one, there's no air of violence there. So Japan is well, Japan is also considered one of the safest countries in the world, but unlike Singapore, Japan still has yakuza, which has been mostly uh, disbanded for the most part. But as the yakuza has been disbanded in Japan, there has been a rise of gangs in place of them, which are worse because gangs don't work with the laws of criminal organizations. Dis they are disunified and will prey after. Well, sometimes in certain parts of, like say Tokyo, I don't know about Osaka, but in certain parts of Tokyo, red light districts, and places like maybe like Roppongi or Shinjuku, they might try to victimize tourists, especially by scamming them in these little host bars. But that's a whole tangent for another day. Benjamin Smith says India has a major issue with plumbing and shortages of bathrooms, especially in small villages. Yeah. Oh, I would say if you're gonna be a backpacker in India, a backpack traveler, you should probably be um, prepared for uh, some rough hewn accommodations when it comes to latrines. So, and a lot of places in Asia, particularly in South Asia and even in East Asia, don't the traditional places will just have a toilet on the floor, where it's just literally a hole in the floor, and you just kneel down and do your business. So Benjamin says, "I thought you looked like you could be Larry Elder's little brother." I don't think I look like Larry Elder's though. I don't know. Agatha says, "Like, share, and subscribe, guys." Thanks, Agatha. Um, Benjamin says, "Why do Hispanics get a pass on slavery? They have hundreds of years of Spanish DNA that dates back to Columbus. They were the first to set up slave trade in. Hold up, slave trade in America. Hispanics are white mixed with Native. So, all right. So this this is a little bit of a skew from the topic, which is International Men's Day. And I'm going to reread that definition, by the way, for folks who didn't catch that the first time coming into the stream. But just to piggyback on that, the Hispanic Latino culture is just that, it's a culture. They're not a ethnicity. You can't really blame any of them on slavery. It you have to talk specifically about Spaniards, people from Spain, right? Um, and yes, they did, and yes and no, they brought slavery to America. That's true and not true because in the countries that became Latin America, these indigenous cultures were already enslaving each other. This is why the Aztecs were. This is why Hernandez Cortez was able to defeat the Aztec Empire, because half of the people of the Aztec Empire were the people that they had in that they had conquered and enslaved. So a lot of these people were quick to revolt against the Aztec Empire. Um, with the Mayans, same bullshit. Like when you conquest up your neighboring tribes, and force them to do uh, and force them into your little ritual self deletions to your bullshit gods, Quetzalcoatl, and all that other sort of stuff, you're gonna find people quickly revolting. Here's the thing: no culture, no culture has a lease on slavery because it was practiced everywhere in the in early civilizations. I mean, we can go back as far as the Mesopotamian civilizations, which were the very first human civilizations to arise um, out of what is modern day Iraq, right? With the Sumerian uh, civilization, the very first human civilization. Slavery was going on since then. Like, no one's had a lease on it. Now, getting back to what you're saying, I get what you're saying. They brought over a sort of chattel slavery there, right? But you're talking about in Latin America, these folks didn't. Well, the 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 people who brought chattel slavery to the Americas were not the founders of of the United States, right? So this so if we were in a Latin American country, then I'm sure it'd be talked about more. So then we talk about it here in the U.S. because the U.S. wasn't founded upon these Spanish conquistadors. Rather, it was founded on, um, well, first Columbus, and then not to mention the Vikings that came before him, like Eric the Red. was it Eric? Eric was it Eric the Red? Eric Leaf the Red? Whatever. Those folks who came over to what became modern day Canada. Um, I'm not sure if they. I don't know the history of their um, entanglements with indigenous people. I don't think they had much success in enslaving them, but pretty much everywhere else later, the European exploration of the Americas, they either enslaved people or brought over chattel slavery with them. So that wasn't unique to the Spanish conquistadors, but I get what you're saying. Plus, again, the indigenous people themselves enslaved each other, so they didn't bring that concept over. It was already being practiced. So, unfortunately, but again, slavery was like the most one of the most common ways of getting people to do work in in the ancient world and even up into modern times. Shit, in Mauritania in Africa, they didn't outlaw it until literally 2003. You can look that up. Not to mention, there were African pirates that were enslaving huge amounts of Europeans and taking them through the Arabic slave trade, the Barbary pirates off the coast of North Africa enslaved huge amounts of white people, like to the amounts that we've seen in the transatlantic slave trade of Africans going to America and the Caribbean and South America and all that. They exported numbers close to that going to the Middle East. So anyway, Benjamin Smith says, which is why all the slave trading islands all spoke Spanish and not English. I just feel like they got too much of a free pass with selective outrage of their ancestry. No, the reason the islands all speak Spanish, not English, is because the conquistadors came there first. The English people and Dutch people settled in different islands. The places where the Dutch and English settled is where they um, speak those languages today. Parts of the Dutch West Indies, the British West Indies, right? The American colonies. So, uh, Raheem Jones says, you look like a humble person. Do you like jazz music and coffee? Can't forget the cake slices. Bro, I just literally had some iced coffee. uh, I, I I like jazz. I don't listen to it that much just because really, I don't listen to music that much anymore. Period. Like usually, I only listen to music when I'm working out, either when I'm going for a run, at the gym, or at the Muay Thai. For some reason, like every Muay Thai gym is going to have like hip hop banging in the background because I guess it just motivates you. But most of the places where I listen to music is usually for like to be to be like energized. So I don't really listen to jazz, but yeah, I love jazz. It I didn't originally because it grew on me because my father used to always listen to it when we used to drive, like when we were on our way home, and he used to always put me to sleep. And I was like, this is such whack, boring music. But it just grew on me. Like I just started liking it because just the process of listening to it all the time. But to be honest, I rarely listen to jazz. I actually can't remember the last time I actually sat down and listened to the jazz channel, unfortunately. But I really don't listen to the radio at all. So Jay said they use divide and conquer among the tribes, just like our own government does to us. Well, again, whose fault is that? You can't divide and conquer people who weren't already divided. Again, the Aztec Empire was a cruel civilization. So half the people were willing to revolt against them in the first place. When you when you conquer and enslave the neighboring peoples around you, they're going to feel some sort of way about it, right, Jay? uh, Same thing in Africa. Like these people were enslaving people. Pe- People need to realize this, and this is why the the black lawyer Dennis Sperling has talked about this, and why he believes African nations owe foundational Black Americans reparations. It's because the fact of the matter is they were practicing slavery before the Europeans came. The Europeans wouldn't have been able to come into the interior of Africa, rip these people from their countries, and import them to other countries if the people weren't already in on it in the first place. The fact of the matter is, these West African countries were already warring upon each other, and as victors, and and as spoils of their victory, they took slaves. And then when white people came along, they made more war upon each other just to capture slaves and hand them to these white people to get to trade for resources. So who's really at fault there? I mean, both are, yeah, obviously at fault, but they couldn't have taken advantage of a situation if that situation didn't already exist in the first place. So I blame the Africans for that. Tomo says you look like a film star. He said, the first slave owners were black. Well, not in America, they weren't. But if you mean back in Africa, yes, of course they were. But in America, no, the first slave owners weren't black because the first black people transported here weren't well to do to own slaves. Like most of the first black people came here in 1619, and they were slaves and indentured servants. None of them were slave owners. That's not supported by history. Later on, in say like the 1700s and 1800s, yes, they were black slave owners, but they weren't the first slave owners in America. So that's not true. Now, if you mean they were the first slave owners back in Africa, then that is true, but not here in America. Amen says, are those degrees in the back? Yeah, 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 they are. Tomo says, so good to hear a person with some knowledge. Well, I appreciate it. I'm a history nerd. Well, I'm a nerd in general, but definitely was a history nerd. That was one of the major, like, I think every freshman, or not every freshman, but many freshmen go through like a phase where they are exploring like multiple majors they want to do and before they finally settle on one. I went through that phase. Like when I first started college, I wanted to do a degree in uh, business administration. Thank God I didn't do that. Any degree, any degree ending in administration or management is a bullshit degree. I'm just gonna tell you that flat out. No diss to anyone who has a degree that ends in management or administration, but if you do, it's a bullshit degree. Um, And the reason being was that I was going to open up my own martial arts school. And I wanted a business degree, so I knew how to run my own school. But then went to the Occupational Outlook Handbook and saw how little they make and how much hours they put into the labor. Like I saw that they work on average, what, like 60, 70 hours uh, a week, but only made like 20, 30,000. Mind you, you got to adjust that for inflation because this we're talking about 1995, 96. Yeah, 1995. So if that was 30,000 then, I'm guessing that's roughly about 50,000 now or so. But still, the amount of labor to the amount of pay just didn't add up. Like I'm talking about 70, 70 hours a week to like 50, to only making 50,000 a year. Mm-mm. Uh, but so then I switched. I was like, oh, I want to do history. So then I thought, I could do history. And I was like, history might be kind of dry. So I was like, maybe I'll just be a not strictly history, but maybe social studies in general. Again, just like administration, anything, any degree in an administration and management is a bullshit degree. Any degree in studies is a bullshit degree too. Family studies, social studies, African studies, whatever studies. But um, I changed my mind from that too. Then I was like, oh, I want to be a doctor. So, but I was like particularly in psychiatry. So that's when I moved into looking at psychology and biology and pre med, and there we go. Josie says every race has been enslaved somewhat, which is true, absolutely true. And if anything, the term itself should clue you in that it didn't start with enslaving Africans because the word literally comes from Slav, the Slavish people, the Slavic people, right? Um, that is the etymology of the word slave comes from the uh, the involuntary servitude of Slavic people back in the Middle Ages. So, but again, slavery goes all the way back to ancient civilization. So even and actually, it predates civilization because before we had ancient civilization, we were in a constant state of warfare, tribal warfare, and those people will often capture, kill, and enslave others. So, um, Tom also same as when black people say whites can't wear Dutch braids. White thing first. What's white thing first? I don't get it. I don't even know what Dutch braids are. Is that like the I'm thinking of like the little two pigtails with the little ties. Is that what you're talking about? Um, but yeah, I don't even know. Sophie loves all animals. Says, "Hey, happy Men's Day. All men deserve to be celebrated and appreciated so much." Thank you, Sophie. Appreciate that a lot. She said at Josie B, every race has been enslaved, including white English, 10th through 15th century. We were taken to Africa to be slaves. Again, I think Sophie just popped up because, or I don't know, but yeah, I literally just mentioned that about 20 minutes ago. I said people don't realize as bad as the transatlantic slave trade was, the Barbary slave trade was just as bad, and it probably lasted longer. Well, I won't say it lasted longer, but the Barbary slave trade was just as brutish as the transatlantic slave trade, where African pirates off the Barbary coast captured millions, um, millions of white Europeans and exported them through the Arabic slave trade. Not only that, they also captured other black people and sent them through the Arabic slave trade. The Arabic slave trade lasted longer than the transatlantic slave trade. It literally went on until the 20th century. So, um, yeah. Josie B says George Orwell, 1984. I really wish a lot of people would read that book. it, it is so. The funny thing is, people always overuse detail like Orwellian stuff, but it can be so apropos sometimes, particularly right now. And I think people forget the lessons of it. But that's a whole different subject. Raheem Jones says you might love Jerome Richardson jazz music. He's amazing. I don't listen to hip hop anymore or anything because it's depressing negative music. There's still some good hip hop out there, Raheem. There is, but to be honest, most of the stuff I listen to is the older hip hop, not new stuff. It's very few stuff I listen to this new, and that might just be because of a generational thing. But the music just isn't that good. Um, Lyrically, like the beats, they still make good beats, but lyrically, it's not the same. Um, I'll look into Jerome Richardson. He sounds familiar. Like that sounds like something I may have heard before. Did you ever listen to like the hip hop jazz fusion? Like uh when my man Guru, I think he was like the first like rapper to like fuse hip hop and jazz. Rest in peace to Guru, by the way. I think he passed away several years ago. But I used to dig his music, and that was one of the few things me and my father both like, because he would like say, hey son, listen to this, and I think he even bought like the tape or CDs back in the day and let me listen to it. So it's kind of good because it was a fusion of rap and jazz. So and like I said, I think Guru was the first one to do that. His first uh, album where he fused jazz and hip hop was called Jazzmatazz. If I remember that correctly, back in the like early '90s. Josie B said, "Who's writing the history or erasing history?" 1984. Uh, so when it comes to history, so history is one of those social sciences where it's either a it's either not a it's not it's either a not a it's either not a social science or it's not a very good social science. It's somewhere in but it's somewhere in the middle, right? Um, I I'll grant it is social science status for the same reason I grant linguistics its social science status because it uses empirical methodology. Now, there's some people who will say empirical methodology itself doesn't is not a guarantor of something being a scientific discipline. Mm, I'm more liberal on what we can call a science and what we can't call a science, but that doesn't mean all scientific investigations are inquiries are equal. So history definitely has a deficit when it comes to that. I mean, social science in generally is weaker in empirical status than it is to the the natural sciences. But uh, because there's a method of inquiry in history called historiography, I will grant it a scientific status because historiography is where you can actually independently test historical claims, and this is how we get public verifiable information about historical information, right? Historiography allows you to independently check historical claims by verifying them by through cross-checking them with other people of that time period and so forth that make the same claims but were not associated with each other, so they're not just basically in the same like epistemic circle regurgitating the same nonsense. That's um, and so far as modern day well contemporary historians use historiographic methodology, I'll grant it that we can uncover you know historical facts. Josie also says a degree in business administration is a joke. No, it is. It definitely is. Like I said, anything ending in administration or management is a joke. Same thing with studies. Anything ending in studies is a joke. Uh, D. Michael says, "This is funny. I hope he's joking here, not serious." D. Michael says, "I'm an English white man. I wish I was born black because white genetics are so shit." I don't know what you mean by that. Besides you being English, it, there's actually a better genetic variety in English folks because you have different, you have a bunch of different strains of, you have a bunch of different strains of English heredity going on. Like you have the Germanic stuff, the Germanic heredity coming from the Anglo Saxons. You have the Scandinavian heredity coming from, the Vikings that conquered England, uh, the the Frankish people who came in and you know intermingled and conquered or got conquered by the English. You have the indigenous Celtic people who originally were there. Uh, there might be trace amounts of the Romans who came there. Of course, the Romans who came there may not have been necessarily from Roma. They could have been from anywhere in the Roman Empire. But again, that just shows how much of a genetic mix there might be. Not to mention the Neanderthal folks. I have Neanderthal in me as well because I have a significant amount of European ancestry, about 20% European ancestry. So I have a fraction of Neanderthal ancestry as almost anyone does who has northern, northwest European ancestry. So with all that, uh, English DNA is not crap. Okay, I mean, maybe maybe for you it's more of a cultural thing, not so much of a genetic thing. Um, Sophie says at Josie B, it's not allegedly it happened. Why are you trying to think slaves didn't happen to some, but did to others? What's up, Moonlit? What's up, bro? He said headphones are broken, so I can hardly hear, but it's all in the chat. The like button. Appreciate it, guys. If you can't hear me, let me know. Unfortunately, I don't have some good headphones on me. Well, I have my PC headphones, but not my phone earbuds. But hopefully, you guys can hear me. Josie says that Sophie already addressed that. It did in an earlier comment. Yeah, so some of you guys, like, because I'm lagging, there's always going to be a time lag in the comments when there's the flowing conversation. There's going to be a time lag. So I might comment on something that you guys already mentioned 5-10 minutes ago. So don't blame that on me. Don't blame that on the other comment, the other folks in the chat room. That's my fault. Big Freedom says, why is it so hard for fathers in custody court? Because family court has been made to benefit women. This is a good thing to talk about on International Men's Day. One of the reasons why the family court system benefits women is because in some of these courts, the judges, the pension for the for these judges are made up by the money taken in family court. I'll tell you what's worse, Big Freedom. So here in Maryland and in a few other states, I don't know the other states, but if you guys know the other states, you can shout them out. But here in Maryland and a few other states, say you're married to someone, right? And they have a child outside of your marriage with someone else, the woman, right? Do you know the husband is still legally responsible for taking care of that child, even though a, even though a paternity test can verify that it's not his child because it happened within the confines of their marriage, that the illegitimate child they still have to pay for. So if they break up with the person, they still got to pay child support for a bastard that isn't theirs. Talk about unfair. That's unfair. This is why a lot of men today aren't getting married. Like, why set yourself? Like, we pride ourselves on rationality, right? How is it rational to go into a contract where the person is paid to leave, right? If we have if we have a binding contract, say for like employment, but for some reason the contract stipulates that this person will get paid if they leave the job, what incentive do they have to make it work? you know, family court is some shit. Hopefully Trump will do some changes to that. We need to get rid of no fault divorce, because again, you're going no fault divorce means men are going into a contractual agreement where the other party is being is paid to leave. Sophie says, "Hey Moonlit, how are you?" Moonlit says, "Mad at my pets chewed my headphones, but all good. How are you in the chat?" Josie says, "We are all nuts having various mixes of genetics." Oh, mutts. I'm sorry. We're all mutts. Yeah, definitely. There is a old Southern joke, right? Excuse my language here, but there's an old Southern joke that says if a white person shakes their family tree hard enough, a nigga will fall out. Which means it's always been understood that no one's pure race. As much as we want to talk about Aryan and all that sort of stuff, or pure black and all, no one's pure. Mona says exactly. Family court in the USA is a nightmare. True, complete facts. Josie says women did not always have rights in courts. That's true. A lot of us didn't have rights in courts originally, unless you were a land owning, wealthy, white Protestant male. Most of us didn't have rights in courts. Yeah, so Mona says no, but I can verify firsthand paying for two boys that weren't mine, and I was never married to this day. Damn, I'm sorry to hear that, man. Josie laughed at my it. It sounds funny, but that's a real Southern saying. Like, ask anyone you know from the deep South, like an older person, they'll tell you that was a common adage. um, Sophie says it is so mind blowing that a man who is not their father has to pay for them. This is why I would love for all children, when born, unless adopted, surrogate, etc., should get DNA tests. Yeah, so that's the other move, was to make mandatory DNA testing. I remember I mentioned this in a in a comment thread on on Facebook for George Takei, the old Japanese guy who was once on Star Trek to play Sulu. He's a very far left wing guy, and the people he attracted to his Facebook page are very much so as well. And people were just trying to say I was misogynist and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, how is that misogynist when it actually protects both people? It actually protects both parties, and they didn't get that. But you know, um, John Murray says, "Hi." He said, "Do you consider a career in the Marine Corps?" Now it's Army, bro. Army. But shout out to the Marines though. Uh, you guys are cool as well. You guys just had your 249th birthday. Well, I don't know if you're a Marine, John, but yeah, you guys, if you are, you guys just celebrate your 249th birthday November 10th. So, hoorah to all the jarheads out there. But now I'm a soldier. But like I said, um, back on November 10th, I was like, if it's anyone that I want to have my six, it would definitely be a Marine. So shout out to them. Sophie says, Moonlit Fern, I'm good, thanks. Cold though with the snow here across the pond. Oh yeah, well, I'd rather have this the cold weather, honestly, Sophie. It's been unseasonably warm here. Well, not unseasonably because of climate change. Now it is seasonably, but you get what I'm saying. Like Maryland back in the 90s did not used to be this warm in November. It used to be pretty frigid for this time of the year. Not anymore. This is why I'm in a t-shirt. I went outside like this. John says you can never go wrong with canned spaghetti. Canned spaghetti? You talking about like what spaghettios? I was never a big fan. Like I tried, I used to have all of the canned pastas back when I was a kid. Spaghettios was the least favorite because it didn't have meatballs in it. I liked all the ones with the meatballs in it though. And the Spaghettios didn't have it. I don't know if that's what you mean by canned spaghetti or if you're talking about MREs because those aren't cans. I don't know if but, if you're referring to Chef Boyardee stuff or MREs. Josie says I live in the South, Georgia. Okay, so you've probably heard the saying before then that I just mentioned. I can't see your avatar, but looks is that you? I'm guessing because if you're cute, I'm pretty sure some of these guys are gonna be hitting on you. John says thank you for your service, sir. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Catherine G says hello. What's up, Catherine? Glad we finally connected on IG, by the way. Sophie says let's get the crayons out. Oh, out. John, I didn't start it. I didn't start the crayons. I didn't start the crayons. But let me um if you are prior service, tell me what's your favorite MRE. Moonlit and I, we both have the same favorite MRE. Moonlit can tell you. He start laughing. Moonlit says hot as F in Thailand today, and yeah, Contrarian and myself can tell you crazy Southern jokes all day, but that's off topic. He said big love to the Marines, yes sir. Like I said, I did consider them. Well, I considered every branch, well, except for Space Force because it didn't exist back then. But so I'm gonna tell you, retell you guys my story. So when I was still in high school, I was considered doing the Navy, and I don't know why I considered Navy. Well, I think one because my uncle was in the Navy, and two because I wanted to travel. But I really didn't want to be on ships, which is how they travel by the most, for the most part. And the recruiter was just so cute. She looked like Wendy, like she looked like a real life version of the Wendy's mascot. I know Wendy was a real person, that the daughter of uh, the founder of Wendy's, but she never looked like the mascot herself. Like she was not that cute, right? But the the recruiter looked like if the mascot off the picture came to life. That's like she had the freckles, the ginger hair, the smile, like, and she was just so friendly. Like I wasn't attracted to her, but she was just so friendly, right? And so I had almost just let her recruit me. And honestly, the only reason I didn't at the time was because I had a girlfriend in high school. I was like, nah, like I would have stayed here with my girlfriend. I didn't tell her that's the reason why. I just told her, I said, I said, you know what? I said, I'm gonna wait till I graduate from high school first to think about it. And I remembered back then also my father was like mad. Well, not mad, but he was like disappointed because he was like, why he want to do the Navy? He's like, I guess he just want to do that because of his uncle. Because my father was Army, prior service Army too, right? But I ended up not doing it for the most superficial of reasons that I had a girlfriend. And then skip forward, um, 2 years later, I was going to do the Air Force because the Air Force I considered was the brightest of all the branches, which they were. I mean, like they're the plus. I like the fact that the Air Force was the only branch, and I think they still are. Were the only branch to have their own college on on base. And I don't mean like they have college people coming from the outside. No, the Air Force has their own college on base. So I was like, man, that's cool because I wanted to continue my college education since I had already started. Um, I was already a year and a half into college already, and took time off because me and my father weren't vibing well. That's a whole different story. So I was gonna do Air Force. Already went to you know do my medical and all that other screening at the MEP station, which stands for the military entrance processing station. Already went through MEPS. Only thing I didn't do was swear in. Good thing, because at the time that I realized, well, they can't actually lock in the MOS that you want in the Air Force. Like they can say this, put it in your contract, that's what you want, but you're subject to whatever is available once you come out of boot camp. And I realized it was only then the Army and the Marines that can actually guarantee the MOS that you want in your contract, right? And so I consider Marines. I was like, yeah, it's too gung ho. I was like, I just want something to pay for college. I wasn't feeling the whole uh, um, combat stuff, right? So I was like, let me do Army. And the Air Force actually held me up because they were mad that I already processed through them and was about to go in through them. So they held me up for several weeks till the Army recruiter did something. I think his higher ups got involved and they forced the Air Force to release me to them. And I went, so I had to go back through MEPS and process again. And then I swore in, did Army. I haven't regretted it. Only thing I did regret was that I didn't stay in active duty. So, but yeah, that's my military story. Um, Moonless says, "Welcome back, Cat." Yes, sir. Josie says Wendy looked like Pippi Longstocking. LL. Yeah, like I said, this recruiter, she was cute. Like looking at her now, like I definitely would have hollered at her, but I was like 16, 17 at the time, so I wasn't even thinking of her. Like I saw her like just as this pretty lady, but not as like someone I wanted to date. Looking at it now, I'd been like, yo. But she was like this, this very vibrant person. So just off, this is one of the ways that recruiters get you alone. Is just their whole charisma. I think the way they train recruiters to have this sort of charismatic presence is what tricked a lot of people into into enlisting in the military. I remember even in boot when I was in Fort Jackson. I know they renamed it, but I'm still calling it Fort Jackson. I don't care. But in Fort back at Fort Jackson in South Carolina, like when we were on a PT run, and the drill sergeant was like, "Look over there." He said, "Look over there, privates. That's where they taught your." He said, "That's where they taught your recruiters to lie to you to get you to join." We just all just started laughing because it was probably true. But I mean, I liked my recruiter. He was cool. The Army guy, he was cool. The Air Force lady, the Air Force recruiter, she was alright too. But like, it was definitely like a no go for me when they told me they can't guarantee my MOS. Like they can just stipulate in my contract that that's what I want to do, but basically whatever's available is what I can pick from when I come out of boot. So I didn't like that. Army and Marines are the only ones that can lock in what you want to do in your contract. Moonless says Cat was military too in Australia. Was That's what's up, Cat. Big big ups to our military folks. Catherine says Happy International Men's Day. Thank you. Sophie says it's amazing to hear your story and how you decided what branch to go. It's great to see you again. I'm off as it's 3 a.m. here. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks, Sophie. Melissa says cheer, Cats and Sophia. Agnes says, blessed day, Sophia. Oh, Mona, do you know? You see, I've made Agatha. She's now the moderator too. We so all my moderators are coming in like very. I think we got every like racial grouping under my moderator. So there's my wife who's Asian. There's Moonlit who's native. We have uh, Miss Needles who is German. We have Agatha who's black, and we have Officer Lumen who I believe he's just white. Uh, but I haven't seen him in a while. I hope Officer Lumen's doing all right. I think he's white and Italian, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we got pretty much. Oh, we nah. We probably need a Latino. Then it would be full. But we got almost everyone but Latino, unless one of you are Latino. But yeah, pretty much got the United Colors of Benetton as my moderators. Leon Strucker says UVA is greater than Maryland. Boo, boo. Yeah, UVA is cool. They're, I guess they're one of our rivals. I never considered them. The funny thing is, I said this before, Leon, that I think UVA should allow anyone who can show proven ancestry to Thomas Jefferson, they should be able to go there for free because he founded UVA, if you didn't know. Like he himself was an alum of the College of William and Mary. And I still don't know why the College of William and Mary isn't considered a Ivy League because I gotta look that up. Why? Because William and Mary is just as old as like Harvard and the other Ivy schools, but it's not considered an Ivy. It's considered, up there with some of the elite universities, but it doesn't have Ivy status. And I'm not sure why, other than it's in the South. But he Thomas Jefferson actually went bankrupt founding the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. My family still lives right next to his family's plantation, and we are descended from him through through his affair with Sally Hemings. My sister was even on an old Oprah Winfrey show as one of the descendants of Thomas Jefferson, one of his black descendants. But I was like, yeah. And when I found that out, which was much later, by the way, after I've already started going in Maryland, I was like, why doesn't UVA allow all proof, like anyone who can like prove, their ancestry to Thomas Jefferson to allow them to go there for free, you know, assuming they make it, they fit the their educational criteria. Catherine G says you don't have an Aussie. Oh, you want to be a moderator? So the only thing I haven't, so the only reason I haven't made more moderators because someone asked me yesterday too when I made Agatha one, and I was saying the only reason I haven't yet is because I don't have that big of a chat room. I was like, I'll definitely add more moderators when I have a bigger chat room, but at this point, uh, it just seemed like it would be weird to have like 6, 7 moderators and like six and only like 10 people in the chat room. Like it should be proportional to the chat room. Plus, but it's good to have multiple moderators too, just because not everyone can be present in every stream. So that way it ensures there's always someone who can help me moderate as well. Because my wife is rarely available, even though she's my managing moderator. But yeah, I'll definitely um, wouldn't mind adding you as a moderator. I just need to get a bigger chat room first. Leon says, "LOL." He said, "Wow, that's awesome." Um, Catherine says, "Joking, not fishing." He said, "Agree." Josie says, "Do you believe in reincarnation?" No, but for a couple of reasons. One is because reincarnation originally in Hindu beliefs was basically a way of basically was a way of how I'm gonna put it nicely. The reason I'm not for reincarnation is because the original version of it was basically a way of justifying the caste system. Like basically, if you were the lot that you had in life was due to your previous life through via reincarnation. So if you were at the top of the caste of Brahmin or of the warrior class that was right under the Brahmins, which was people who came under the like who were like royalty, nobles, or the military, or if you were all the way at the bottom, the untouchables, all of that was basically due to whatever life you led in a previous life. Which, so that's one turn off for why I never believed in reincarnation and whatnot. The other thing, the other reason I don't believe in it is just because there will be is just for pragmatic reasons. Like there will be no way to verify it. How would you verify that what you did in the previous life, or that you will be going on to another one after this one? It's just there's no there's no reason to believe in it other than taking it on faith. Now, if you want to take it on faith, that's fine. The problem with taking it on faith is that you can literally take anything on faith. So if you can literally take anything on faith, then there's no there's no sort of epistemic bedrock for any sort of belief, and that's problematic. But if belief in reincarnation gives some people comfort, that's cool with me. Mona says super chat button right on your screen. Bryce Walnut, right? Exactly. Did you realize that I did? Mula knows exactly what I did there. Catherine G says, "I believe in reincarnation. That is like saying, how can you verify religion?" Exactly, but that's the point I'm getting at, Catherine. Is that I mean I get that you have spiritual beliefs, and that's I'm not knocking people's spiritual beliefs. What I'm saying is I am. Uh, I have a scientific worldview. So for me, any claims that are not testable, I'm not going to accept them. Like for me, any sort of claim has to be somehow testable for me to think that it's a rational claim to make. So, and reincarnation falls afoul of that because there's just no way to test those claims. And then like I said, aside from the fact that that concepts like reincarnation are not testable, is the further problem that reincarnation was used to justify an inhumane social hierarchy within the Indian civilization. So that's my other problem with it. Josie says, "Do you believe in other forms of mankind existing on other planets?" Mankind? No. If you mean others, I guess you. When you say mankind, I don't know. Do you mean specifically humans, or do you just mean intelligent life? As far as mankind, no. Humans evolved here on this planet in East Africa 2 million years ago. Are you are you saying that some of us may have went on to other planets in some time in the past? If so, again, that's not how do we test that claim, right? I'm a very hard-headed, rationalist, scientific sort of person, so um, I'm open to any idea, but like a like a like the hard-headed science student that I was trained to be, I'm always going to be like, well, yeah, that's an interesting claim. How do we test it? That's how I'm always going to. That's my outlook on any sort of like claim people make. um, which leads to a certain sort of scientific skepticism about many sort of claims people make out there. And so if someone's saying humans may have independently arisen on other planets, I would say no. What we consider humanity has you know evolved here, on this planet. Now, it's a separate question to say, is there intelligent life on other planets? That is a possibility. It is a genuine possibility. However, I find it unlikely until we have more evidence for it, because we, unfortunately, Earth is our only example of life so far. And even if we do find life on other planets, there's no guarantee it's going to be intelligent life, because getting into evolutionary biology, I'm being a nerd, getting back into evolutionary biology and evolutionary theory generally. Um, Intelligence is only one mechanism that a species can utilize to become more selectively fit within its environment. Not so every current species alive today is the master of whatever they do. Whether it's the bee with its ability to search for honey, the ant that can create ant these ant civilizations, uh, these whales that can circumnavigate the seas using because they can actually um, track using geomagnetic waves. Bats that can find their ways, they find their way through the dark. You can use an echolocation, and so on and so on and so on. Like every animal's every extant animal today, every animal living today is the master of their craft. Ours just happen to be intelligence and language. But there was a series of historical accidents that led to us developing um, this sort of computational intelligence that we can utilize. There's no guarantee on other planets where life may have arisen that the same selective pressures will lead to those historical accidents, giving them intelligence. So that's why I'm kind of skeptical on it. But it's a genuine possibility. To answer your question, sorry if that was a long winded answer. I have a bad habit of doing that. Catherine G says, fair enough. She says, science has been highly corrupted through, though, and there are people's bias that comes into it. Yes, but that's individually. The, the great thing about science is that it's self correcting. So even when people bring in their own biases, even when a certain research paradigm becomes stale and doesn't doesn't work as efficiently, they're replaced through new research paradigms, which is called the paradigm shift. Something we know well in the history of science and in philosophy of science is that it used to be thought that paradigm shifts happen because a lot of scientists would see the light and be like, "Oh, this this research program uh, is not that good." So, in scientific psychology, the main research program used to be behaviorism, but they saw the shortcomings of it, and then it eventually got replaced through cognitivism, the new research paradigm. But that wasn't because that a lot of people saw the light and said, no, we need to shift to a different research program that's more effective in studying what we want to study. It's because unfortunately it's just most of those previous people of the previous research paradigm died out, and the people studying the new research program went on to live another day and brought in their methodology. But there are some genuine scientists who will have studied something for like their whole life and be like, yeah, this doesn't work, and just give it up. but by and large, that's not the majority. That is the minority. Someone who would say study in experiment and say like in physics, um, study uh, loop quantum gravity for the past 40 years and be like, you know what? Loop quantum gravity is not giving us any testable predictions whatsoever. It's time to scrap this and maybe look at some other form of unification of quantum gravity. But that's not the majority of folks. The majority of folks, like humans, have their biases and their pre-existing beliefs, and like everyone, scientists are not, scientists aren't immune to that. But eventually, like I said, a better research program will come along, and the younger students will latch onto that newer methodology or program, and the people who held the previous orthodoxy will die out. So, but the best thing about science, unlike any other form of intellectual inquiry aside from philosophy, because I think philosophy and science have a certain continuity between them, which we which is another topic altogether. The continuousness between philosophy and science. I might do a whole stream on that one day. But anyway, aside from philosophy and science, there's very few intellectual inquiries which are self-correcting. Most of them can end up becoming very dogmatic, like religion and certain liberal arts and humanities. So, uh, Josie says no came from other planets to here. Oh, okay, so I get it. So your question is, do I believe humans came from other planets and then settled on Earth? No, I don't think so. There's just no evidence for that whatsoever. Like, we have abundant evidence showing that humanity arose out of East Africa 2 million years ago, and the ancestors of these ancient humans were human-like apes, or um, um, folks that these ape-like well, these human-like apes rose like I'm gonna say like five, five, 5 to 6 million years ago, and they eventually evolved to ancient humans around 2 million years ago, and then we got modern humans 200,000 years ago, and then psychologically, modern humans, people who basically behave and think like us, didn't arise till about 60,000 years ago, and then we didn't get human civilization, until about 6,000 years ago, and the rise of the Mesopotamian civilizations in modern day Iraq. So, in the city states of Sumer, and then modern civilization didn't arise until the 1500s, the early 1500s. So we're just a blip in this on this pale dot that we call the Earth. Catherine G says there is evidence. Well, do tell, do tell. Uh, IB says you sound like ChatGPT. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I haven't used ChatGPT. I use Google Gemini since I have a Android phone, Team Android. But now I use Google Gemini. I actually will have debates with Google Gemini, if if that makes sense. I don't think well, not a debate, but when it says something wrong, I'll try to correct it. And the good thing is, because of it has a learning algorithm, it will correct itself when you point out something that is wrong. So I guess it has, from its database, and I've heard that Gemini actually has a better database than ChatGPT, by the way. But I guess when you correct it on something, it can instantly check its database and self correct on that. So, which is kind of cool. but I don't know if sounding like a like a generative AI program is a good thing or a bad thing. Moonla says, if I may, is Miss Contrarian religious? And when it comes to reincarnation, you could go deep down the rabbit hole of multiple dominions. I think he means dimensions and multiverse stuff, but again, it won't be yourself in any way. Well, to answer your first question, no, she's not. She's agnostic. I found that out when when we first started. I don't know if it was when we first started, but I think by the time we were thinking about marriage, I found out she was agnostic because she didn't care about having a church wedding or whatever. Because if so, she would have asked me to like say that I was Catholic or whatever, so we could have had a religious wedding. But she wasn't interested in that, so I found that from the beginning. So it works well in atheist and an atheist husband and an agnostic wife, right? Although she never really called herself agnostic, I kind of pulled it out of her. I said, "So are you kind of agnostic?" She's like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Cool." And as far as when you're talking about reincarnation, yeah, I guess you could go into a rabbit hole depending on your conceptualization of reincarnation, because obviously the Hindu religion aren't the only ones who believe in a certain reincarnation, but for the I think when people think reincarnation, usually the prototype of it is the Hindu version, right? But yes, other belief systems have also talked about reincarnation as well, right? As far as dimensions, no, again, not to be a pedantic person, although I am, but people always get dimensions wrong. When people think of dimensions, they're thinking of different realities, but that's not literally what a dimension is. People think that because of bad sci-fi writing for the past 100 years, but dimensions are basically just numerical values you can put on different on different to on different physical measure is basically putting a numerical value on a physical measurement. That's what a dimension is. It doesn't refer to like different realities or anything like that. But people in sci-fi, because most of them have never taken physics, get that completely wrong, and it kind of misleads other people into thinking about dimensions as alternate realities or stuff like that. Literally, literally, dimensions are basically just putting a numerical value on a physical measurement. That's so we have three dimensions of space and one of time. And then if you are to believe certain string theories, there may be as many as 10 different physical dimensions or 26, depending on the type of string theory you adhere to. Personally, I don't find string theory very edifying. I don't, I find string theory dubious because it's been around for 50 years and it hasn't given us anything other than a very elegant and mathematic equations to try to unify quantum gravity, but it's given us no testable results, and I think it never will. I think it's a doomed. I think it's a doomed research program in theoretical physics that's been around just because it's been bullied into most of academia, and it had almost died out 30 years ago, except for a very brilliant person, a physicist named Edward Witten, who took all the different variants of string theory and said, look, he said these aren't, he said, look, string theory isn't wrong. He was just saying that all of you having these different variants of string theory don't realize that they all cohere into one sort of unified string theory, which he called M theory, which is how he pretty much saved M. He pretty much saved string theory from dying out probably like 30 plus years ago when he was this genius who took all these different variants of string theory and said they were all consistent with each other and made up a larger coherent string theory that he sometimes is now called M theory. So, but even after that, 30 plus years ago, string theory has not given us anything testable, and others promising theoretical physics have died out. Superstring theory has died. I mean, that's sorry, not superstring. Superstring is actually one of the variants of string theory. Um, I meant supersymmetry. Supersymmetry was a very promising theory long time ago, which hasn't yielded results and pretty much is academically dead, so to speak. And I think loop quantum gravity is the next theory that is pretty much dead. Loop quantum gravity is like one of the rivals to string theory. That's pretty much dead right now. Um, but there are still some other contenders to string theory. The problem is we don't hear about them that much because most of the heads of these departments have made it so that if you are not practicing string theory, they're not going to bring you into their doctoral programs. So you had to so string theory became sort of the orthodoxy of theoretical physics. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent, but the point being, I was just saying like dimensions can just is basically just putting a numerical value on different physical dimensions. That's but it doesn't refer to like different realities or anything like that. So it doesn't really help reincarnation one way or the other. Moonless says, I highly believe there's bacterial life on Europa. We're hoping. Uh, we're hoping that they might find some sort of life on Europa. But again, to your point, yeah, more than likely, if we find life on any other uh, planet, it's most likely going to be microbial life. Because even here on Earth, for most of the history of life on Earth, it has been microbial. Most of life on Earth for billions of years have been microbial. It wasn't until like the last mm, I want to say 800 million years or so that we got multicellular life. So you're right. Most likely, if we do find life on any other planet, moon, wherever, most likely it's going to be like some sort of microbial life or extremophile. Catherine says, "Yes, I'm fully aware of that." Cool. Josie says, "Do you believe there's life after death?" No. Um, Again, that's one of those things you have to take on faith because there's just no evidence for it. There's no supporting evidence that there's life after death. And in a certain sense, life after death is even kind of illogical because life after death like doesn't it like it's, a, it's sort of a oxymoron, you know, life after death. But if people are asking, can a person's can a person can someone's can a person survive biological death, then it is genuinely possible that someone's personal uh, personal survival can can continue after biological death. That is the continuation of their psychological connectedness and some other strata. When I say psychological connectedness, I'm talking about the bundle of things that make up um, their personality, their memories, their quasi memories, their beliefs, their thoughts, their their desires, their streams of consciousness. All of these form your psychological connectedness, and this can personally survive physical death. But that's only hypothetically because so far we don't have any means to actually do that yet. But it is genuinely something possible in a more advanced um, technological society where people can maybe upload their psychological connectedness into either a different physical body or into a machine or make clones of themselves and whatever. But that's a matter of sci-fi for now. But as of the present moment, no, I don't believe in life after death because there's there's just no evidence of there being an afterlife, which again sounds incoherent. Moonless says respectful conversations. Y'all play nice but have fun too. Yeah, everyone seems to be respectful. Moonlit, I think, except for that guy Andrew Davis. I don't even think he was being disrespectful. I think he was just some little dumbass kid. I don't know. Um, Moonlit says historical accidents is great terminology. I mean, that's the best way to put it. Like many different evolution has been nothing short of historical accidents leading to certain things in different species. Like because one of the things that people always get wrong about evolutionary theory is that they think it's the origins of life, and it's not. It's uh, evolutionary theory is actually the theory on the origin of species, but the origins of life is a whole separate and more contentious theoretical underpinning um, evolution. And Darwin himself had his own ideas on the origins of life. His idea of the origins of life, which many people have also grabbed onto, was the whole organic soup um, origins of life, that basically life arose from the early Earth, when all of the Earth was pretty much covered in water and was just a hot volcanic place, like very in inhospitable to life as we know it today. But maybe some sort of organic material was irradiated through sunlight or something similar, which made those molecules self-replicating, and that became the origins of life. So that's the organic soup model. But the rival to that is the panspermia model, which is that organic molecules were brought to Earth from out from outer space, and um, this organic material was self-replicating. Um, there's really no we really don't have one we really don't have evidence to discount which one is the right one. But those are the two rivals to origins of life, where again evolution itself is just the origin of how species arrive, how species evolve from other species. That's evolution, and largely that's a byproduct of historical accidents, of a certain individual within the species having a certain random mutation that makes it more selectively fit in its environment than another than the other Joe of its species. Like this guy just happened to have a hooked beak, whereas all his other homeboys had straight beaks. And his hooked beak allowed him to get into that tree and get those nuts. No diddy. And because of because of his hooked bill, his hooked beak, he um, could feed himself and um, get with the ladies and reproduce and spread his genes, and they died out. Um, so that's partly through genetic random mutation. That's part of evolutionary theory. Um, and so, but anyway, I don't want to go too far askew into that. OETF Studio says I finally met a contrarian for real. Let's go. He said, then who was phone? I don't know what you mean. Then who was phone? You said who was phony or who was I don't. Can you restate that? I didn't get it. Moonless says I do see how religion tried to control science, but science is all about hypothesis and ideas, test results, and share with peers to review over and over again. Then it becomes scientific facts, not Joe Rogan news. Well, yeah. So scientific theorizing is always like self-correcting. So things that we adhere to as being scientific knowledge today won't be so in the future because all scientific knowledge is prospective. Like if better information comes along, it will make that information that we have today falsified, which is a strength which a lot of people don't like, but that's a strength of of the scientific process, not a weakness, because we can correct. Whereas other sorts of intellectual inquiries like religion and others can't correct themselves, so they just stay in a sort of orthodoxy. They become frozen metaphysics. So Josie B says Team Android, sir. Catherine says, what about the pilots that have seen UFOs? The evidence is openly available on the internet now, and I'm talking video footage. Yeah, that's been debunked for so many times. I don't know how many times they got debunked that sort of stuff. Like one of the biggest things people can, I mean, they've done is Skeptical Inquirer has like over 60 years of debunking alien UFOs, alien up, alien abduction, alien visitation. All the stuff has been debunked so many times, but people will always regurgitate that stuff in different in newer forms, which then has to be debunked again ad nauseum. But none of this stuff is independently verified. And then when you talk about some of these folks coming out later on in the military saying, "Well, yeah, I seen this and seen that." Here's the thing, and not to be callous to pilots, but pilots are not the best experts on aerial phenomena. Like they they're not experts in things of an astronomical or meteorological uh, background, so they can often misinterpret what they see, just like all of us can. We will often misinterpret the distance of things, the size of things, what that thing is actually doing because it's moving relative to our own movements and so forth and so on. And then you're talking about being in the air where things become even more weird because of the complications of the atmosphere and light and other sorts of stuff. Like pilots are mistaken about stuff all the time. So that's unfortunately that sort of evidence is pretty subjective, but I get why people would find it convincing. I think people will only find it convincing if they already believe it, though. That's the problem. Agnes says, "Why do you think more women are heading households than men?" I don't know what you mean. Haven't women always headed the household, or I don't, or maybe I'm misinterpreting what you mean. For one thing, a lot of guys just aren't having homes anyway because a lot of them are choosing not to have families because again, it's not a good payoff for most American men for the reason I mentioned earlier, which is American marriages are like going into a contract where the other party is being paid to leave. So you find a lot of there's most men in Western society are more likely to be single and childless, um, whereas many women, they have to be the heads of their households because it's their children, so they have to have a household in order to provide for these children that they've had, right? So I think that's sort of I think what you're asking me. If not, you can correct me. Wavy Tyrone says if they ever find life outside Earth, they're probably never going to release the news to the public. Well, here's the thing: we live in 2024. Everyone has a smartphone. It will be hard to hold something like that secret in this day and age, where everyone has a smartphone. Like, if there's any sort of cryptozoal out, any sort of cryptozoology out there, we will find it because everyone has a phone on them all the time. That might would be believable before the before the information age, but the fact that uh, flows so freely that everyone has a computer within the palms of their hand that can instantly connect with every other person on the face of the earth who also hold one, that we have cameras on our phones that are better than the professional cameras of 30 years ago. Like, if there's any sort of cryptic animals, aliens, spirits, I don't know, any other sort of paranormal phenomena, or what we call woo in the scientific in the skeptical community, it would be found by now. There's no way to hide that sort of stuff with the sheer amount of information that's shared today, and not to mention that everyone has the tools of investigation within the palms of their hand with a smartphone. Um, it got, it's hard for government to hold secrets nowadays. Like, and to be honest, because my friend works in cybersecurity, he was complaining about this. Even when they are tasked with holding secrets, they do it poorly. And you know, because he was complaining about it, because he holds one of the highest security clearances you can have in that field. Um, and he was complaining about some of the lack of due diligence on people in his field, or of people in the government in particular, when dealing with high profile people. And I told him, I said, man, don't be stressed out. Never care more about your job than they care about it. And he was like, yeah, you're right. So even at the highest levels of intel and cybersecurity, there are people who don't do their due diligence in keeping government secrets very well. And these are the people at the tippy top. So imagine just the people at the lower echelons trying to keep information from the masses. It's going to leak. It's hard to keep. It's hard to keep secrets nowadays. um, he said. He said even if it is a bacteria, eh, well, especially if it was a bacteria, because it would probably cause sickness. But that's a different story. Moonlit says Ellie and I are both agnostic as well, but pay merit to Buddhist monks out of respect for Thai and Hindu culture. That's what's up. I mean, I have respect for different religious faiths. Not all of them, but I do like Buddhist faith, and I like how Buddhist faith is similar to the, the Jedi. So being a nerd, and of course, I have a inclination towards indigenous American faith systems, because when I used to think that I had native ancestry, it was something that I had explored for several years. Catherine G says, more to the point, the information becomes obsolete. Sometimes it becomes obsolete. If you're talking about it being falsified, then absolutely. But sometimes you just have to, may not be falsified. You might just have to modify it. Like when you go from like Newton's law of gravity to Einstein's, um, you know, general theory of relativity. Some like for the most part, even though you might say he falsified Newton's theories on gravity, for the most part, you can get along with doing Newtonian mechanics without stepping into relativistic mechanics, because they're both classical because they're both classical physics, as opposed to doing quantum mechanics. So you have the classical and you have the quantum, and both Newtonian and Einsteinian mechanics are both classical, whereas quantum is something different. But for the most part, unless you are actually in that field or you're in engineering of some sort, most people can just get around life using Newtonian mechanics. So that's a example of where you had to modify something, but it doesn't necessarily falsify it because Newtonian physics is still true within a smaller subset of phenomena. But for more, but for a more global um, explanation of gravitation and other things, then you have to incorporate, Einsteinian relativity mechanics. So, um, Moonless says, "So you're willing?" Oh, sorry. He says, "So you're saying we are all joining Space Force next year?" I'm down, but wow, the name is too funny to me. I wish. I mean, to be honest, people clown it, but if I was 17, 18, I would have definitely joined it. Because like I said, I joined Air Force because I almost joined Air Force because they were the smartest branch, and Space Force branched off of Air Force, and right now a lot of the stuff they do is very important. Unfortunately, the work is looks pretty boring because most of them are stationed in like places like Boulder, Colorado, or Denver, Colorado, places like that. Boring ass places. They're in some other places too, like Florida and other places, but they'll never see the field because their field is literally space. So they would maybe, I don't know, 50, 100 years from now, people in Space Force uh, might go to the field. But since their field is literally space, pretty much they will always be, in garrison, wherever it's in Colorado or Florida or many of those other Space Force bases. I don't find it. I did find it funny at first, but that's pretty much people only hated it because they thought it was Trump's idea. I guarantee you, if that was Obama's idea, they would have been sucking his dick about it. They'd have been like, "Oh, Obama, what a brilliant idea for to have a space force to deal with all the cyber crime and international digital blah 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 blah." Yeah, so because even Neil deGrasse Tyson said it's actually a great idea, and I was like, it's kind of right, and it's going to become way more important in the future. It's already the stuff they're already doing is very important when you're talking about stuff like cybersecurity and um and signal intelligence and stuff like that. So Josie says many people have a smartphone, but the intelligence of humanity has been severely diluted and dumbed down on purpose. Mm, I don't know, but I have often joked to say that s- smarter devices have led to more stupid people. But even still, individuals may be dumb, but like I said, uh, collectively as a group, there won't be very big secrets about the realities of nature that can be hidden by the government. They just don't function that efficiently. They just don't. They don't function that efficiently. They're most they're most efficient at either being inefficient or at deleting people or or putting people behind bars. That's the most efficient they are. When it comes to other things, yeah, not so much. But to believe that in this day and time where everyone has instant access to all information available on the planet, that everyone has like um, a device that can do expert photography and cinematography, that people won't find something that's been hidden. It just wouldn't happen. If there's a Bigfoot out there, they're gonna find it, or any other Sasquatch. If there's a Loch Ness monster, they're gonna find it. If there's aliens, they're gonna find it. If there's ectoplasmic spirits, they're gonna find it. Um, if there's, the New Jersey Devil, they're gonna find it. Whatever, like all these little cryptozoological species, if they exist, we'll find it. If there's phenomena coming from outer space, we'll find it. Like it would be hard to it would be hard to hold such secrets in 2024 and going on unless technology regresses, which is a possibility if certain cataclysmic things happen, especially with our dumbass government allowing Ukraine to shoot rockets into the interior of Russia. But that's a whole different story. Moonlit says on the flip side of that, there is amazing single parent men too. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Agnes says I was thinking growing up, my grandmother never worked outside of the home. My grandfather, he was in the Navy, and he always says a man's responsibility is to the family. Yeah, I agree with that. If it's his family, but yeah, I agree with that. So, were you referring then to like women being like uh, the caretakers usually in the home instead of the father? I'm guessing that's what you meant, Agatha. Moon says media would have everything to gain to share anything remotely world changing. Exactly. Anyone who could prove something that's been out, the people have been wanting to find out for however long would become instantly famous. If you so that's the other defeater to the claim is that this stuff would be hidden. No, it wouldn't. If you could prove right now that the aliens exist, you will be on the cover of every magazine, everywhere on the internet, everywhere on TV. You will win some sort of award, of course. Like it would, you would be the most famous person on earth, at least for that 15 minutes of fame, if you could prove any of the things that that any of the bizarre claims that people have been making for the past hundreds of years. Could give if you could confirm those things are real, you would be the most instant famous person ever. Like that so Moonlit is exactly right with that. Catherine says I was talking about science. Um, Moonlit says I agree, Josie. Common sense is no longer common. Pay pay no attention to all the wars. Just pay attention to pumpkin spice lattes and Mariah Carey Christmas music. We're dumbed down, not for long. Eh, I mean, individual people are dumb, and but that's always been the case. I think sometimes we like to claim the brilliance of a few bright individuals. All of humanity likes to claim the brilliance of a few bright individuals. Most people weren't Einstein. Most people weren't Freud. Most people weren't Darwin. Most people are kind of dumb. And that's always pretty much been the case, except for some pretty bright, exceptional individuals. Um, as far as common sense, I mean, that's not a new phenomenon. Like, literally, Rene Descartes complained about that long time ago, back in the 1500s. He said, it seems that good, the common sense. He was saying, well, what he said is that he said everyone is so convinced that they are of good sense that no one ever searches to have more of it. um, so this is not a new complaint that people lack common sense. This has literally been a complaint since biblical times. If you go back to some of the Davidian, um, some of the Davidian literature in the Bible, and I believe Proverbs, when he talks about how wise people are so full of doubts, whereas foolish people are so sure of themselves. So it goes all the way back to ancient times that people that a lot of people have always lacked common sense. This is not a new phenomenon, unfortunately. Fortunately for us, they are always exceptionally bright individuals who bring up the human race. um, Catherine says, "Yeah, Green Moon." Mona says, I read a link to a science magazine saying gravity can exist without mass. I sent it to a lot of people, and F. Obama with his quote, we working on an Iron Man suit, unquote. He said, my God, we already more advanced than that. Well, yeah, the military has already been working on exosuits, but it's way above my pay grade to say how far afield they've gone with exosuits. Like, remember, even in The Dark Knight, well, Batman Begins, his 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 prototype for the bat suit was an exosuit for military combatants that they thought would be too expensive to provide to the military, and uh, it wasn't too far off that they were actually working on stuff like that. Put this person in time out. But yeah, mm, but as far as gravity, I'm not gonna talk on that because I'm not an expert in. I have no expertise in physics, so I'm not gonna speak on what is gravity and what isn't gravity. I mean, I know from my basic physics classes that it can be indistinguishable from an accelerating, you know, from an accelerating field. A non-Newtonian accelerating field, accelerating frame of reference, that is. The accelerating frame of reference would be indistinguishable from um, a, from a gravitational field. So, but as far as whether it has mass or not, I don't know. I can't speak on that. Like I said, for the most part, most people can get along with just knowing Newtonian mechanics without dealing in relativistic mechanics or quantum mechanics. Not to mention, again, I want to caution people that the people who are not versed in physics probably shouldn't be worrying about what's happening in theoretic physics because it's so beyond their ken that it wouldn't make sense for them to opine about it. Because if you can't do if you can't even do the basic physics, what grasp will you have of theoretical physics, which is all math at that level? And if you can't handle it, like if you've never taken the basic baby stuff, there's no way you would know that this theoretical stuff is good or not. Josie says the government has known about gravity, free energy, remote viewing, MK Ultra, and time travel since the 70s. I don't know about that one. Free energy, there's no such thing. I mean, energy itself, the definition of it, at least in physics, is, you know, the ability of the capacity for a system to do work. And that in you know, so by definition it wouldn't be free. So um but I think when people free energy, I think they're talking about what's that term called? Um I forgot, endless something or other. I don't know, it's late. Remote viewing has been debunked. Like I said, some of you guys should probably get a subscription to Skeptical Inquirer. Remote viewing, that's been debunked 50 years ago. All these other things have been debunked. So this is why there's a scientific skeptical community arising from people like the late amazing James Randi, Michael Shermer, and others who are the founder of the skeptical community coming out of the 60s and 70s. Catherine says, "What are you doing to celebrate International Men's Day?" I don't know how to celebrate it. That originally, thank you, because that takes me back to what I was going to talk about originally, was where do we go from here with this celebration? And I had actually pulled up the definition of it, Wikipedia. So let me mention that again. Then we can go into these other tangents. Let me put on my glasses too, so I don't have to squint at the screen. Okay, good. So International Men's Day, or IMD, is a global awareness day for many issues that men face, including abuse, homelessness, self deletion, and violence, celebrated annually on November 19th. The objectives of celebrating an International Men's Day are set out in the quote, all the six pillars of International Men's Day, unquote. It is also an occasion to celebrate boys' and men's lives, achievements, and contributions, in particular for their contributions to nation, union, society, community, family, marriage, and childcare. Okay. Um, doesn't say really how you celebrate it. Um, it was inaugurated on February 7th, 1992 by Thomas Oster. The project of International Men's Day was conceived 1 year earlier on February 8th, 1991. The project was reinitialized in 1999 in Trinidad and Tobago. The longest running celebration of International Men's Day is Malta, where events have occurred since February 7th, 1994, as Malta was the only country that observed the February date of celebrating men and their contribution to the society. The Maltese AMR committee voted in 2009 to shift the date for IMD to November 19th. Um, Jeremy Telexing, who revived the event, chose November 19th to honor his father's birthday and also to celebrate how, on that date in 1989, Trinidad and Tobago's football team had united the country with their endeavors to qualify for the World Cup. Tilexing has promoted International Men's Day. It's not just a gendered day, but a day where all issues affecting men and boys can be addressed. Okay. He has said of IMD and its grassroots activists, they are striving for gender equality and patiently attempt to remove the negative images and the stigma associated with men in our society. Unlike International Men's Day is not officially recognized by the United Nations. All right. So that's some history to it. All right. So let me say what the six pillars are. So International Men's Day objectives are given as number one, to promote positive male role models, not just movie stars and sportsmen, but everyday working class men who are living decent, honest lives. Two, to celebrate men's positive contributions to society, community, family, marriage, child care, and the environment. Three, to focus on men's health and well being, social, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Four, to highlight discrimination against men in areas of social services, social attitudes, and expectations and law. Five, to improve gender relations and promote gender equality. Six, to create a safer, better world where people can be safe and grow to reach their full potential. Sounds good. Sounds good to me. Um, so it doesn't seem like there's any particular type of way to celebrate it. I guess it's open to interpretation. Um, I guess by by virtue of your culture or whatever. But I think just the acknowledgement of the day, and that men deserve their, you know to be acknowledged, is probably a start, right? So mm. Anyway, let me get back to the comments. Melissa says, especially with the satellite lasers finding all sorts of temples and cities in the Amazon and across the world. Melissa says, International Men's Day should be recognized. So, to all who talk about it, Catherine says, men and their role in society have been canceled too much. So, I think that men should be honored for their role and achievements. I agree. Catherine also says, raise a glass to yourselves, men in this group. If you aren't in that, practice some self care and nurture yourselves. I don't drink, so my water. Moonlit says yes, and MIT in Boston are doing wonders with it. Oops, he brought up Batman. My bad, y'all. Buy him a coffee or don't, or do a super chat. It's the dollar button on the bottom right of your screens. Thank you. He said I'm sipping now, just slowly. So cheers, and highly agreed. Physics can be a journey. Astrophysics even more, but always interesting to hear thought. Yeah, I don't have anything against people's interest in theoretical physics. My problem is that when people try to talk about physics as if they know it, but they have never actually like studied it academically, I find that problematic because it would be just like someone talking about biology, chemistry, engineering, or any other very um, specific intellectual field that takes a lot of study before one can be knowledgeable in it, and then just talk about stuff they hear people mentioning on a random PBS, like PBS documentary or something they saw on the headlines of some news or magazine or something. Catherine says, I think it's important to bring awareness around what issues that men are having in society. I agree as well. She says self care right there. Moon says agreed, Cat, but Men's Mental Awareness Month got taken by the alphabet community. Catherine says my background is in psychology. Mine is as well. Well, one of my backgrounds. Um, um, it so to what Mona said, it hasn't been overtaken by the alphabet community. Actually, I don't know if you remember when I spoke about this several months ago back in June. They said that actually Men's Mental Health Awareness Month was placed in June purposefully because it also coincides with Pride Month, because a lot of people in the alphabet community also suffer from mental health problems, which is obvious for the fact that they don't understand what they are. Can't they have issues on understanding what their gender is and their sexual orientation? All these typify someone who is struggling with mental health. So this is why it's funny that it's tacitly saying that a lot of these people have mental health issues, but without calling them nutty, because obviously people who think they were born in the wrong body and other sorts of ideas are obviously people who are struggling with mental health issues, but we can't say so. So then the clever way to deal with that was to say, okay, well, we're going to put men's mental health awareness month in the same month that Pride Month is, so that they can coalesce, and people who are a part of that community can also realize that maybe they are struggling with issues that can be brought into awareness through men's mental health awareness. So I actually find that kind of clever. Um, Zelvin is back. He says, hi, I'm the guy from last night. I changed my PFP today, though. No problem. He said, I had the Mountain Dew PFP last night. Melissa says, so having one day is like finally people gave us a day. He said, y'all have every other holiday. Can we have one? All love, by the way, great quote, contrarian. Thanks. Melissa says, shout out 80s babies. My birthday was November 15th and Ellie's was November 11th. That's what's up. So, happy belated birthday, bro. Like I missed your birthday. Andrew Johnston says, then say so. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Catherine says, what about 70s babies? Yeah, same here, 70s babies. Andrew Johnson says, what's this guy's deal? Dude, if you jump into a stream that's been going on for 2 hours, you're probably gonna be clueless if you didn't have the forethought to read the fucking top topic for the fucking live stream. You fucking mental midget. Who? Some of you are sorry. Some people who randomly jump into streams are stupid as fuck, and I'm gonna just say that. If you see a stream that's been going on for 2 hours, not to mention you completely ignore the fucking topic for that live stream and don't understand what's going on, then that's your fucking fault, Andrew. Anyway, Moonlit says 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s too. We grew up in a crazy era. Agla says happy birthday, Moonlit Fern. Zelvin says I was the guy who talked about academics and talked about having a 4.0 GPA and made the nerdy joke. No, I remember. I remember the name. Dude, I don't think you remember, but yesterday I said I remember pretty much everything. I remembered the name Zelvin as soon as y'all saw it. I knew, I knew who you were. And yeah, I remember the nerdy joke that you made about RNA, because I said you had to be nerdy to make a joke about, you know, about the amino acids to make up RNA. Like only a smart person would think of something like that. When it says W chat, um, W like button, W sub, excuse me, W super chat, and W being back on topic. Word. He said this guy sucks. Yeah, so does your mother, but we keep her around because she provides us a service. Everybody, make sure Andrew Johnson's mother gives you that good suck. She can do it like a rotor, like get all up in the gums too, all up in the gums. Ain't that right, Andrew Johnson? That's what your mother does. Make sure she schedule me for her 6:30 as usual. Tell her pull the dentures out because I like it all gums, all gums. Selden says, yeah, some people need to read the title. Moon says, thank you, Agatha. Andrew Johnson says, I'm Audi 5000. Yeah. Yeah, Audi 5000. Yeah. Say hello to 1990 for me when we used to say that dumb shit. Bye, dumbass. Anyway, Moonlit says, Zelvin, nice gambit. Moonlit says, my favorite Marvel character. So I'm sure you enjoyed him in Deadpool Wolverine. He said, ooh, this gonna be my thing. Channing Tatum made that shit so funny. Like it was just funny. Like the stuff he was saying, like low key, like, he was saying like a whole bunch of graphic stuff, really low key because people couldn't understand what he's saying. He said just like I shot out on my daddy. I was like, well, what? He said this, and Dad was like, man, this guy's really graphic. He said, yeah. He said my dad was shooting them all them buttery nuts all up in my. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, that was the that was the funniest interpretation of Gavin I ever seen. And now they want to give him his own movie because it only took to see him live to realize, yeah, this guy would be great on screen. So I think they're going to try to give him his own movie, or if not his own movie, I'm guessing they're going to bring him back into some sort of Marvel film. Hopefully, Zelen says he said, oh, "Okay, lol, glad I could catch his stream." He said Gambit is on top for real, for real. He's the best. Catherine's laughing. One says, have you tried Celtic salt with water when you jog every day? I don't even know what Celtic salt is, but I definitely don't want anything salty um, while I'm running. Especially, I don't like carrying anything on me when I'm running anyway. It becomes dead weight. Only thing I carry is on me is like my keys and a weapon. That's it. um, Saris Newberry, hope I pronounced it correctly. He says, "You look a bit like Gus from Breaking Bad." I wish I had Gus money, but um, you talking about what's his name, Esposito? I mean, whatever. I forgot the guy's name. He's like half black, half Italian. Jason McFarland says, "What is Men's Day? I've been a man for 34 years and nobody ever wished me a happy Men's Day." Well, happy International Men's Day, Jason. Happy, and I just read off happy what International Men's Day stood for. I don't want to read that again. That was a lot. That was a mouthful. No diddy. Um, but it's to basically recognize the contributions of men and their struggles in society, particularly in a contemporary society where they're trying to downplay the role of men and their importance to society. Zelvin says, "Well, I'm about to make a name for myself out of here." I forgot to put it in the Cajun accent. Mullen says, "I'll let that slide, Sarah. That's respect." Captain says, "Also, Baja Gold sea salt has even more mineral content in it." Moon. That's cool. Like, I'm not carrying, but yeah, I'm not going to carry around any sort of drinks on me when I'm out. Only thing I've carried with me when I'm out on the run are like the like the chewable, like the Gatorade chewables, either the Gatorade chewables or the other sorts of similar stuff for runners, because runners don't want to have heavy stuff on them when they're running. Like, it's going to carry down our running time. Zelvin says, "I'm from Louisiana, so it's 100 times better." He said, "Please." Mullen says, "Just remember what you seen here today." Clean. Shawnee Gothic says, "You have a Detroit accent." I've never even been to Detroit. Um, I lived in Illinois, and but I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Baltimore, but I lived in Illinois for almost 6 years. Then lived in like Philly and Delaware for a year, but never even been to Detroit. I've been to Michigan like twice, I think. Yeah, I think I've been to Michigan twice, but not to Detroit. And that was as a kid, like a little kid. Catherine says it's full of mineral content, contrarian, very good for you. Oh yeah, I mean that might be something I would drink. A drink I would drink after my run. Like after a run, I might drink like a Gatorade or some other sort of electrolyte drink. But I don't carry that stuff on me when I run. Like if I carry any sort of electrolytes on me, it's gonna be like in a chewable format that's really small, can fit in my pocket. Like I said, the chewable Gatorades or the or the electrolyte gels. Those are the only two things I've carried on me like doing a run, and those are only like long term runs. Like if I'm doing like a 10 miler or a half marathon, I might, and it's a hot day, because when it's cold, I typically don't burn uh as much body salt, but on hot days, yeah, I'll have like the chewable Gatorades or the electrolyte gels. Mola says Zelvin Cajuns are all French Native American mix, myself included. Zelvin says, yeah. Mola says Irish sea moss gummies are vitamin rich too. Contrarian. Ew, that doesn't sound tasty. Irish sea moss gummies. Uh, maybe Irish woman would taste good, but maybe stop. um, Catherine says de-emasculate men is what toxic feminists do. Facts. Facts. Zelvin says I'm Cajun. I live in southern Louisiana. Okay, southern. So yeah, it's late there too. So uh, Bon Nuit. Catherine says I drink it when I get back from my walk. Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it makes sense. Like I would definitely try those like as a after, as a post exercise drink. So like the gym, I usually have like protein, but after a run, um, it could be pickle juice, it could be Gatorade, whatever I have on hand to replace my electrolytes or bananas. No diddy. Only says I'm Micmac, but I moved out of USA to Asia. Salvin says Rogue did Gambit dirty in X Men '97. Like it's a 60-year age gap between her and Magneto. But dude, you're young. You're gonna learn this. Older men get the girls. They want us because we have the resources and we have the maturity that younger men lack. Which is the other reason why older women also hate when we date younger women as well, because they want those same resources that we provide to the younger women, but we want the younger women because they're more nubile and fertile and prettier. So Shani says, remember the other day when you said that you hate Chinese food? I've literally never said that. I've literally never said that. You probably had me confused with another streamer. Um, Moma says no. He said no. You're super honest. You seen how my live got trolled, but my mods were asleep. He said, "Oh, be careful. Contrarian will school you on DC and Marvel." Catherine says, "I stay away from all the chemical derivatives and dehydrate with more and rehydrate. I think she meant and rehydrate with more natural means by adding mineral salts." Mona says, "Yeah, Gambit still killed it. Boom. I make playing cards go boom. Remy LeBeau, but you can call me the Gambit." So it says, "Gambit, see your bet and raise it. Because the cards always be in my favor." Shawnee says, "Okay, what's your favorite type of food?" Um, you mean specific food, or you mean like do you mean like a specific food, or just uh t- um or a specific culture of food? If you mean a specific food item, I'm gonna say General Tso chicken, and right below that buffalo wings. I know not healthy, but um, it's favorite type of food, like culture. Uh, I'm gonna say Chinese takeout. Chinese takeout, which is not the same as Chinese food. Chinese food is way more healthier and less fried stuff than Chinese takeout. Chinese takeout is a what Chinese immigrants did come into America to make food close to their culture for the American palate. So they're not the same. Chinese takeout and genuine Chinese food. But I guess you can label Chinese takeout as sort of a subtype of Chinese food, I guess. But I would say Chinese takeout is probably my favorite type of food because I can eat that any given day. I don't, but I can. um, Zelvin says mutant acquired. He said the name's Gambit. Catherine says rehydrate. Drink water. Train to kill Sarge. Hua. Zelvin says remember it. Catherine says give me heat. I love spice. I love Thai cuisine. That's my favorite food. I was about to let me stop. I was about to say something. Let me stop. Moonlit says, he said, "Oh, yeah, I'm crazy." He said, "It's all respectful to ask before you come into Moon's home, drinking up all his liquor." Shawnee says, "I like buffalo wings too. If you could travel back in time, who would you like to meet?" Uh, you mean any place and time? I don't know. Um, I'm gonna add to that if I could travel back into any point in time, I will also have a universal translator. If you know Star Trek, the universal translator, so I could literally understand any given language because the farther you go back in time, the less likely you'll be able to communicate with people. Um, uh, I don't know. Like it's so many people. Like there's Thales of Miletus, who was the very first, who's considered the very first philosopher. Um, there's Socrates, of course, or Plato. Um, I don't know. There's like I have so many intellectual heroes that I would love to converse with if I could travel through history and have a universal translator to talk with them. But if I was stuck to only people I could actually like communicate with without any sort of universal translator, it probably wouldn't. It, I'm guessing this wouldn't be past 200 years ago. So, um, hmm, I don't. Hmm, I don't know. Maybe someone like Wittgenstein, Ludwig Wittgenstein, one of the greatest philosophers ever. He would have had a heavy Austrian accent, but I would have been able to understand him since he spoke English. Or Einstein also had a heavy German accent, but he could speak English as well. Um, maybe Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. I don't know. It depends. There could be so many people. I'll be I'll be revving up that time machine like it was the DeLorean. um, Zava says, I think the notion that you could go back in time and change the past is stupid. Well, yeah, that falls under the grandfather paradox, right? Well, if you don't guys don't know, the grandfather paradox is generally accepted in by many physicists that you can't go back in time to change within your own within your own timeline and change the very past that makes you possible today. That's the grandfather paradox. Um, Moments has never had a Wolverine up in here, but can't wait to give Contrarian the collectibles. Deadpool and Wolverine they were selling here. Cool. I'm actually I added some. I found on eBay the Toy Biz Deadpool from 1992 when he was still like a supervillain. So I'm going to order that as soon as I get paid from YouTube. Catherine says, "Beam me up, Scotty." Uh, why you delete all his messages, Moonlit? Zelvin says, because before you were even born in the past, you already were in the past, and your actions affected the world. Right, the grandfather paradox. Zelvin says you can't change the past; it's already happened. Um, he said you're going back in time is what caused the current present. Like I said, there's different thoughts on that. So if you go back into the past and alter it, then your present, like they said in the MC, your current present then becomes the past, and you create an alternate timeline. So it, you know, those sort of paradoxes have to be resolved with a better conceptualization of time. So Moonlit says, "Oh, Cap, careful. He's big on Star Wars and Star Trek too." Abder says, "How you doing tonight, big man?" What's up, Abder? Shawnee says, Einstein was cool. If you could change one thing about your past, what would it be? Oh, it's so many things. Um, hmm, I don't. It's so many things. Shit. I don't know. Maybe I remember when we moved back to Baltimore, my mother said, "If you had told me that you wanted to stay longer in Chicago, we could have." I was like, "What? You didn't tell me that? Like, how you gonna tell me that after the fact?" That would have been something I changed. I would have wanted to stay in Illinois longer because that's what was home to me, not Baltimore. My friends were there. Everything I knew was there. Like, I would have wanted to stay there and finish the school year. That was one thing, but that's a minor thing in a larger scheme of things that could have changed. I've Obviously I would have avoided any sort of major mistakes that I made in my life. Um, so I guess avoiding some of the major mistakes in my life would be the things that I would have changed. So either that or, like I said, staying in Chicago longer than what we stayed. But again, my mother didn't tell me that till after the fact that we could have stayed longer if I had asked. How are you gonna put that on the 13-year-old kid? Like if you had told me that before we moved, then of course I'd have been. If she had said, "Hey, do you want to stay here and finish the school year before we move back to Maryland?" I'd have been like, "Hell yeah!" But she didn't tell me that until after we moved. So, um, Catherine says Aristotle. That's a good choice. Catherine says exactly, and that makes perfect sense. Moonla says VK VYKIN was not only my nickname Viking, but also a supercomputer genius in Marvel. I believe the first Black Marvel super character. No, I think the first Black Marvel character was Black Panther, who was created by Stan Lee, and and um and damn, what's the other guy name? But yeah, he was the first Black superhero, but maybe he wasn't the first Black Marvel character. I'm not sure. The first Black Marvel character might have been the editor from the newspaper from the Daily Bugle. I don't know. That would be something we can look up. Who's the first Black Marvel character? I just know the first Black superhero was Black Panther, but I don't know if he was the first Black Marvel character because, like I said, the guy who used to work for the Daily Bugle might have predated him, not as a superhero, but just as a minor Marvel character. Moen says, "Come on." He said, Philippines makes amazing roast pig, dude. Yeah, yeah they do, but lechon isn't something I would eat regularly. That's not my favorite food. Pork is not a big thing to me unless you're talking about either baby back ribs or bacon. Aside from baby back ribs and bacon, I can pretty much. I'm not a big pork guy, so no diddy. Catherine says yum. Shiny says Chicago is crazy. What advice would you give to young people on social media? I would tell them stay off social media. That's what I would say. Uh, the reason a lot of us people from Gen X and even older millennials aren't behind bars is because all the crazy shit we did was before the era of cell phones. If a lot of us wouldn't have the jobs or our freedom if what we did in the past was for everyone to see. So I feel bad for younger people now who everything they do is on social media. Um, Aside from that, I would say exercise because young people are pretty unathletic and unhealthy. So, which kind of goes into the whole point of being on social media too much as well. So, Catherine says, "Well, making mistakes is what defines you today and helps you grow and learn. Everything happens for a reason." Well, I don't think everything happens for a reason. Um, but depending on what you mean by reason, of course. But no, yeah, some mistakes teach you, but some mistakes break you. And so yeah, if you can avoid some of the mistakes that can break you, then yeah, of course you will want to do that. So that's you know, Mona says like and share and sub. Who Mona says almost completely caught up, about 6 comments behind. That's what's up. I don't even know what 600 plant life is talking about, so I'm just gonna say okay, because he just seems to be reading off a bunch of psychedelic drugs, and I don't endorse narcotics on my platform. I think drugs makes you stupid. Amon says, like traveling back in time is kind of like uh, Schrodinger's box. Apologize for misspelling. No problem. No, it's a different. No, well, the grandfather paradox is different from the Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's cat basically was a thought experiment that showed uh, an important aspect of quantum mechanics, um, as far as looking at talking about position and momentum and stuff like that, and you know when the cat goes into the box, you don't know whether it's dead or alive until you actually make the observation itself, and the 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 outcome of that thought experiment is that the very act of observation changes the reality of the experiment itself. Um, but that's a different situation from the grandfather paradox of time traveling, which is you can't go into the past and travel. Sorry, you can't travel into the past and change the very things that led to you being here in the first place, because depending on the situation, either you have ceased to exist, according to like all the cheesy time traveling movies like you know Back to the Future and all that sort of stuff, or according to the MCU and some actual like mainstream physicists, it will create an alternate timeline from the one from which you traveled, because you can't alter the present, which is now once you travel into the past, now in your past. So, but that's the grandfather paradox. So the Schrodinger's cat and the grandfather paradox are two different thought experiments. Shani says, "I like your advice. Would you describe yourself as a controversial figure?" Not necessarily. I mean, I'm in the red pill space, which makes me controversial. But again, that's why I call myself just a contrarian, because when I used to get into these little uh, bull sessions in college, and even after college, like when I worked at a library as a library clerk, I would get into these little intellectual discussions. And when I disagreed with what everyone else was saying, they were like, "Oh, you're just a contrarian," and that's literally where the name of my YouTube channel came from. But I myself, I don't think am a controversial figure, because I'm not important enough. I'm not important enough in the grand scheme of things to be controversial. I wish. Catherine says you don't know what that reason may be until down the track, sometimes years, even decades. Yes, but again, the problem, it depends on your definition of reason. So when I think of reason, I'm thinking of the rational grounds for something, um, for some claim, or to the explanation of some phenomena. And the fact of the matter is, there's not always a rational grounds for for certain claims, or for certain, or as the explanation to some sort of phenomena. There's not always a rational grounds for it. Now, if you mean reason as far as there being some sort of uh, like physical cause to something, I think that's sort of a stretch to calling it a reason. But yeah, you could say there's a chain of causal events to which caught to which might be the quote unquote reason for something, but that's sort of a stretch of the word reason because reason usually applies to something either epistemic or psychological, which leads to the third use of reason would be some sort of like psychological motive for something. So again, based on either the epistemic version of reason, which is rational grounds, or the psychological aspect of reason as a motive, then there's not always a motive, a clear motive, and there's not always a rational grounds for something happening. There may be a physical, mechanical cause for it, but that's usually not what we're referring to when we're talking about reason. Um, Moonless says, if you were to go back, if possible, what advice would you give yourself as a young man, and in general for all chat, not just men? Don't worry about don't worry about girls or women. That's what I would say. Don't worry about women or girls. Like, have fun, be a nerd, do well in school. Don't worry about impressing girls. That's why I would say don't worry about impressing girls. Don't try to date girls until you're a grown man. That's what I would tell my younger self. Pascal says Bonjour de France. Um, what's up, Pascal? I haven't seen you in a while, buddy. Loyalty, honor, kind of heaven says Bonjour de Belgique. Okay, we got someone from France, someone from Belgium. That's cool. All about Austin McCougan says hi, bro. What's up? Loyalty says shit pot. What's it? I'm about to put on my glasses again. Sorry. When you use different diacritics, it makes it harder to see on here sometimes because I'm using a vertical live stream, which is smaller print. Loyalty says j'ai pas taf bon jeune voisin. Shani says, okay, I see. Would you agree that it's pointless to plan ahead in life if there are many factors you cannot control? No. Um, you should plan, but you should realize that those plans don't weren't may not always materialize the way you wanted them to. So you should make backup. You should have backup plans. You should make a plan. You should have a backup plan. One of the things to typify Batman that he makes chess moves 100 like multiple moves in advance. Like something doesn't work, he has this plan, that plan, that plan, that plan, that plan, that plan. Um, but no, you should definitely plan ahead for the future. It would be kind of um, um, anarchistic to not plan for the future. Um, you just have to realize that you can't control everything. To think you could would be the illusion of control, but that doesn't also mean you just rely on pure whimsy either. That wouldn't be rational. Moonlit Francis Viking was first. You sure? I never even heard of the character. I mean, I have my Marvel Encyclopedia, but I haven't read that character yet. I might have to crack that open. I read my DC Encyclopedia, but I haven't read my Marvel Encyclopedia yet. Catherine says I'm a super deep thinker, contrarian. It has been my experience that certain things happen for a reason. Mistakes or events that take place can be learned from. The reason won't be apparent at the time, but will become apparent later. Yeah, but sometimes that reason that becomes apparent later is just called ad hoc reasoning. Um, that that can often be the case is that people explain stuff after the fact. Explaining stuff after the fact tends to be very dubious. If you can, because you can always explain stuff after the fact, which means you'll never have a real explanation of anything if you can't make predictions a priori. Anything anyone can make uh, a posteriori um, predictions. That means things ad hoc after the fact. Um, if you can't make a prediction before something happens, like in science and in engineering, then it's not very useful to explain it after the fact because you can explain anything after the fact. So that's not useful. But I get what you're saying though. Um, what I was saying is the reason being tied to either something that's either epistemic or something psychological. The fact of the matter is there's not always a motive for some um, intentional invent, and there's always and as far as in explaining something, there's not always a rational grounds for something. There may be grounds, but it may not be rational. Okay. It reminds me of this symposium I went to that this guy gave, and he was saying there's a reason for every to he said there's a reason for everything. They're just not always good reasons. He was like, there's a reason to eat your car. That was literally the name of the talk. He said there's a reason to do anything. There's a reason to eat your car, but doesn't mean these are good reasons. What he meant to say is that not all not all the grounds for people doing things or thinking certain things are rational grounds for them. They may be reasons, and as far as there's some sort of uh, some sort of ultimate grounds for it, but they may not be rational. And usually when we think of and so sometimes I think people equivocate those meaning the uses of reason when they say that there's a reason for everything because they equivocate from the common usage, which that there's a rational grounds or psychological motive for something, to the looser use of the word that there's just some sort of cause. But like I said, just because there's a cause for something doesn't mean that it's rational, or that there's an intentional motive behind it. So that's what I'm saying when I mean that there's not a reason for everything. But if you mean it just in the looser sense of the word reason, as the sense of there just being some sort of cause, then sure. But I think we should be clear when we say reasons that we're not talking about reasons in the commonly understood sense of it being rational, but instead of it just being some sort of mechanical cause. So, um, Moonlit is agreeing with Catherine. He said couldn't agree more. Growing up without social media. Oh no, no, he's going. Sorry, agreeing with me. He said couldn't agree more. He said growing up without social media is healthy. But question: do you think this is our evolution? No, I mean this is just a new thing we gotta get used to, just like any other technology. Like people. So I've talked about this many times on my stream before as well. That every time there's a new technology, people said have always doomed the entire human race. And this has literally gone all the way back to ancient times. Socrates thought writing would be the worst thing in the world to humanity. He said because it would kill our memory and we wouldn't be able to no longer memorize and learn things because everyone would be dependent on writing everything down. So even like as early as like fourth 3,000 years ago, we were fretting about, oh, this new technology is going to be the worst thing that ever happens to humankind, and we all learned to adapt. We brought on writing, and we still have memories. We can still learn rote through rote memorization. Um, People say the same thing about TVs. TV's going to rot all our brains, and all of us will be stupid. Blah 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 blah. People say that about TVs. Um, you know, then people say that about the internet back in the 90s. Again, we adapted. Now people are saying that about social media. We'll adapt. So it's a sort of like it's this whole this idea of we're all doomed every time there's a new technology, but people adapt to the ubiquity of this new technology and make it work for them instead of us working for the technology. Shani says you have a lot of good knowledge. Appreciate it. Thank you. I just read a lot. Mona says Vikings was called Black Bolt. I think 1973. Okay, Black Bolt. That sounds familiar. But like I said, I know that the first black superhero was Black Panther, but I don't know if I've never claimed that he was the first black character in Marvel because, like I said, I'm pretty sure there would have been other black characters. Like I said, the guy from Daily Bugle, I think, predates um, Black Panther. Catherine says your experiences define your future. In some respects, yes. In some respects, Mona says is right. It's observation, kind of like tree falls in a forest. The tree falls in a forest is a different situation. The tree falls in a forest is what we call in philosophy a pseudo problem. That's brought about by the ambiguity and vagueness of natural language. Because it says if a tree falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. That trades on the ambiguity of the term sound, whether you see sound as being a matter of perception or sound as a matter of like some sort of energy or something. So it's, that's like a textbook example of a pseudo problem. So that's not really a paradox. That's just caused by unclear language. Um, Catherine says, "I think this is where we may differ." Probably so. Layla Kawaii says, "Do you watch Bounty Hunter D?" Bounty Hunter. That's an anime, right? That sounds familiar. Bounty Hunter D. So I'm thinking of Vampire Hunter D, but that's something completely different. I'm not sure about Bounty Hunter D. Um, Catherine says rationality does need to come into it, of course. Um, Abner says, "Hey, buddy, how's your night going?" Cool so far. Eric says, how do you, okay, I'm not reading that. Let me see something here. Uh, I was just checking my messages, guys. Um, hold on, let me see what my. Oh, let me take this off the charges on 100. I'm gonna burn up my battery here. Um, I want to take a break, but let's see. Can I put this? No, I'm gonna just ride this out and then I'm gonna end this because it's been almost 3 hours. Abby says those glasses look nice on you, bro. Appreciate it. Just regular um, reading glasses. Um, but yeah, where were we? So again, for guys just coming in, the whole topic today was International Men's Day, which was today, November 19th, which is started apparently back in 1994, and it was originally in February, and then they shifted the date to November. Um, and it's basically just a celebration of men's role in society and the understanding of their struggles in a society that downplays men and masculinity. So, um, he said, fit your face so perfectly. I think because they're meant to fit everyone's face, probably. Shani says, if you had a flashback of a certain situation in life, would you try to reconstruct it to learn something more? What do you mean a flashback? Like just like memories of past events? Because we all have memories of past events, but I can't change them. And as far as reconstruct it, like all memories is a constructive process, which a lot of people don't know. They think when you when you trigger long term memories that you're remembering something in exact form. But it's not. Unfortunately, memory is a constructive process, which means they can be easily altered, which is why we have um, why things like testimonial evidence is so fraught in the legal system, because we all know, because of the work done in cognitive psychology, that memory is a constructive process, and that it can be easily, you know, um, episodic events can be uh, easily falsified in people's memories. So, because of false memory syndrome, uh, cryptomnesia, which stands for hidden memories, um, through uh, traumatic events, which can cause people to repress certain events. A lot of people don't believe in memory repression, but Freud was right. There can be memory repression through certain traumatic experiences, um, or through head injury, um, and other likewise phenomena that deals with memory and learning. But um, yeah, I have events. I mean, I have memories of old events, but I can't really do anything about it other than learn from those events, or enjoy the memories of those events, or avoid memories of certain events, I guess. Shani says you would make a great motivational speaker. Is there anyone that you would refuse to debate on any topic? Um, what do you, I mean, I don't know. I mean, as long as you enter a topic on good faith, I'm willing to hear it. People generally trained in philosophy are willing to hear. Here's the thing: one of the best and worst things about philosophy is that you you can come up with good arguments for the worst ideas. um, so anyone with philosophy and with a background in philosophy, particularly analytic philosophy, is usually willing to hear any idea, no matter how bad it is, if you can give a good argument for it. In that vein, I'm pretty much willing to have a debate on any given topic if you can talk about it rationally. Probably the only thing that I really wouldn't take seriously is like fascism, because it's one of those things that, given it a platform, d- d- doesn't help doesn't help defeat it through the light of reason. I mean, through the light of evidence, because the whole toxicity of it. And I'm not talking about fascism as the way it's talked in current election politics. I want to make that clear. I'm talking about fascism as we actually understand it, not in the way it's loosely used in the electoral politics today. But the problem of fascism is that it defeats discussing things in an open marketplace of ideas, because given it reception in the open marketplace of ideas is leads to its very flourishing. So it's one of those things that, because of the very nature of its toxicity, it wouldn't be fruitful in giving it space to propound its its ideals. So that'd probably be like the one of the few things I wouldn't want to get into a healthy debate about is something like fascism, because it doesn't, again, light of evidence doesn't work on it, and merely by the fact of giving it space allows it to flourish. So Omar says, in the past life you were a sailor. Mm, I doubt it. Well, one, I doubt it because I doubt there were people had past lives. And two, I doubt just because I'm not a fan of. If that were the case, I probably would have joined the Navy instead of the Army. So I don't know. The other problem is, even if there are reincarnated lives, we'll never know because it's clipped by the time we go into the new one, right? So if there was reincarnated lives, whatever the nature of our lives are, like, we will be unable to grasp that we had a previous one. So anyway, guys, I'm about to go. I mean, unless there's any standing questions or comments, either about International Men's Day or what we just talked about. Actually, no, I can rock a few more minutes, but I am gonna have to take a potty break, guys. Give me, let me. Oh, no one step on my charger. Where do I wanna put this? Oh, shoot, computer in my way. I'm gonna put this right here so maybe you guys can see the little collectibles and stuff. But um, I'll put this right here. I'll be right back, guys. Un momento. All right, I am back. I forgot to put on the music. No one reminded me to put on the background music. So I got some good anime background music. Um, I completely forgot. Hold up. All right, put some. Omar says, "Do you believe in religion? Do you belong to any religion? Do you, well, when you say to believe in religion, I mean, No, religion is an institution. It's not something you believe in or don't believe in. You mean as far as any religion? That's a different question. No, I don't have any religious beliefs. It's the opiate of the masses. To 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 badly quote Karl Marx. Most people actually get that quote incorrect um, from what he was actually saying. That tends to be the case. People try to take a complicated question. Well, not sorry, not complicated. People tend to take a complex saying that some philosopher made and try to turn it into some sort of pithy quote that fits on a T-shirt, and it often does it a disadvantage because people don't get the full grasp of what the person was trying to say in that claim that they were making. Um, but hold on, I want to put on some anime music in the background because guys, I'm a nerd. Okay. Um, but no, I'm not of any particular religious persuasion. I do have a fondness for Eastern religions though, because I think Eastern religion is the closest to um, like something philosophical, whereas most Western religions I think are more frozen metaphysics that they shedded their philosophical aspects a long time ago in the pursuit of dogma. So, guys, and thank you for your patience for letting me uh, relieve myself. um, Omar says, "What kind of music do you are?" That's what's up. If you play, I wish I could play an instrument. I wanted to play an instrument. I wanted to play the viola when I was a kid because my friend and I were both into like coming into that era where we wanted to do all these certain things like play an instrument, do pee wee basketball, do play no, pee wee baseball. Sorry, play rec basketball and all sorts of other little things that all us little suburban Illinois kids did back in the 80s. Um, but the kind of music I like hip hop. I like classical music, European classical music particularly. I like jazz. I like R&B. I like classic rock. Uh, I like some heavy metal, grunge rock. I like reggae, reggaeton, soca. Um, and I think that's pretty much it. Some pop rock. Okay. Margaret says I'm 83 and feel great. That's what's up, Margaret. Keep it up. Keep up the the vivacity. Snapshots. Sniper says, "Hey, how's it going, brother? I'm doing well, bro. What's going on?" Omar says, "Yes, I do believe that there's a higher power. I believe that there are spiritual things, but I do not identify with any religion." Okay. He said, "Where did you grow up at?" I grew up in Chicago, but I live in Atlanta now. Well, I'm originally from Baltimore. Lived in Illinois as a kid for about 6 years before moving back east, and then spent some time between Philadelphia and Delaware while still going to school in Baltimore, and then moved to the Washington D.C. suburbs, and then um, ended up back in Baltimore. So he said, "Yes, I'm pretty good at playing reggae." That's cool. Let me make sure. Did I miss anyone's question comments? Oh no, I don't think I did. So the music I have on, guys, is 2 hour epic and powerful anime music collection. by the Soul of Wind. I played this before, but not that long. I played this, I believe, last week during a stream. Oh, so that's another. You can add that to the list too. Anime music or anime music for short. I mean, uh, anime music or anime music for short. Yeah, I love that. Which is basically like all the music that they make for like anime for like the intros. Like anime music has like the best intro music ever. um, get you all sized, get you all riled up and hyped, as well as the closing, the outro music is dope too in anime. Omar says, "I wish I was calm as you. You seem like you are not stressed because I work out every day, but trust me, I get stressed, very stressed." See something. So you said you live in Atlanta now, bro. If you get stressed, exercise. For guys, and again, this is someone speaking from a psychological perspective here. Physical exercise can be more psychologically beneficial for men than it is for women because we are more we are more visceral than women. I think women, whereas both men and women do both benefit from psychotherapy, science-based psychotherapy, that is, not the bullshit psychotherapy, but science-based psychotherapy works for everyone. But because men are more visceral, they can often achieve the same benefits or more through physical exercise than they do through psychotherapy. So when you're feeling stressed, bro, go work out. If you don't have a gym membership, get one. Like Planet Fitness, $15 a month. $15 a month. You can, and it's like, and the gym is open 24/7. It's it's a win-win. It's cheap and it's always available any time of day, regardless of your schedule. Also, when you go there, you'll meet a lot of cool people in the gym, and the funny thing is you'll meet people of every social strata at the gym. You'll meet people. You might meet someone who's just a janitor, and you'll meet someone who's a freaking aerospace engineer, and in the gym they're on equal footing, just having fun, pumping iron, or working out and doing some cardio or circuit training or hit training. Um, and it's good looking women in the gym. I've said this on my own Facebook platforms that Agla's lucky she ain't single because let me stop. um, Ag, if you want to exercise, Agatha, hit me. Well, you can hit me up on my social media. I'll do some training with you. That's why I was also telling you if you can, um, and this goes to everyone, guys. You can become members of my channel. I have some members only content that for like physical training, like that I do like a free home home video on doing like basic Muay Thai, hybrid Muay Thai, kickboxing for beginners. I do a stretching course for anyone of any athletic ability or no athletic ability, rather. Um, and I'm going to add more. The only reason I haven't added more is because I don't have more members. Once I have more members, I'll do more members only content. Um, but yeah, actually, hit me up, privately. I can give you like a little kickboxing routine to do, um, or a little strength training routine that you can do from home, just doing calisthenics. But my personal recommendation is for people who have the fortitude to go out to the gym, get like a gym membership. Like I said, Planet Fitness is 15 a month. They're open 24/7, except on holidays where they usually have shorter hours. But any other given day is like 24/7, and you meet a lot of people. You can meet people there as well. Like I said, the gym has become the new nightclub. People don't hit nightclubs like that because they're not worth it. You got to pay money to go see people not dance. um, so nightclubs haven't been hot since the 2000s. But the gym is where it's at. The gym is the new nightclub. So, but trust me, I'm definitely not as calm as you think I am. I have been known to crash out quite a few times when I get stressed out. But I'm naturally just a chill person anyway. What the funny thing is, I was once one of the many times I was in psychotherapy, which again is healthy for most people. You should seek psychotherapy when you can to deal with everyday stress that gets to be too much. But nowadays, I prefer exercise over psychotherapy. But anyway, I remember when I was relaying to the clinician everything that was going on, she was looking at me astounded. She was like, "You should be breaking down right now." She was like, "You're going through so much." She's like, "Why aren't you breaking down?" She's like, "You." She's like, "That's." She's like, "That's not natural. You should be breaking down." And I was like, "I don't know. I'm not built. I'm not built like that. I'm not. You know." So maybe it is just my own personal demeanor, but trust me, I do have my little own times where I crash out and get upset. It's just it's just it takes a lot to get to that point. Um, Omar says, if you had one wish, what would it be? If I had one wish, no, I'm playing. I'm joking, but um, I don't know. So here's a couple of them. One would be to become a trillionaire. Yes, trillionaire. Because Elon Musk says he wants to be the first trillionaire, and then at this rate, he probably will be one in 10 years. Um, One would be to be a trillionaire. Two would be to have super speed powers. uh, Three would be mm, uh, I don't know. Three would be to, to have like cosmic level intellect. It'd be one of those three. Or the cheat code is would be to have a wish to have unlimited wishes, right? That's the cheat code. But I don't know if you say that's not allowed, then I'm not going to count that one because obviously most people would say unless it's a cheat code, they would say I would wish to have unlimited wishes, right? So he says, what kind of exercise do you do? Running. I do long distance running, martial arts, strength training, calisthenics. Agnes says I need to do some exercise. Also, well, we already gone over that. Like I said, hit me up privately. We'll set something up. Doc, what's up, Doc? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? So he said, hello, brother. It's been a while. How you been doing? I'm doing all right, man. Same old, same old. Well, went from here to my grandmother's place during the summer, and now I'm back here. So, um, Agnes says work is getting toxic now since I'm back. People getting nasty. I can see it. Like I said, exercise benefits everyone, both males and females. And again, what I try to tell people is that the mental follows the physical. When you're physically healthier, you're mentally healthier, and when you're mentally healthier, you're happier, and when you're happier, you can function better. Well, no, let me get that wrong. Let me get that straight. Sorry, messed up. When you're when you're physically healthy, you're mentally healthy, and when you're mentally healthy, you can function better, and when you can function better, you're happier. So Omar says, yes, I was about to say that my wish would be to have unlimited wishes. See, the only reason I don't want to use that is because I think everyone would say that because it would just be the cheat code. So let's remove that because otherwise everyone would say their wish would be to have unlimited wishes. So like I said, if we remove that from the category, like the genie did in Aladdin, then I would say either like to have just cosmic level intellect, super speed, or be a trillionaire. Basically, being a trillionaire is basically like a superpower in itself. So, because at a trillion, when you have $1 trillion, there's like you you will never having $1 trillion is basically like having virtually unlimited resources because you can never spend $1 trillion no matter how you try. On top of that, you'll never be, on top of that, you wouldn't ever go broke either because money makes money, like compound interest. Compound interest becomes exponential the more you make. The more you make, the more compound interest accrues, which is why Elon Musk probably will become a trillionaire in 10 years, but if not sooner. But um, yeah, I mean, like I said, being a trillionaire would be like a superpower in itself. Lindsay says, "Can you give me one word to add to my song?" I don't know what your song is. Um, how about eudaimonia? You don't have to look that up to see what that means. Well, I can tell you what it means. It's basically a sort of uh, it's sort of like a platonic excellence. It's like it's not just like happiness. It's sort of like a sort of excellence, but in a very platonic ideal sense. Eudaimonia, Eudaimonia. Eudaimonia. Um, Ian says Popeye's chicken versus Church's chicken. Does Church's chicken still exist? I'm not in the South, guys, so if Church's chicken still exists in the South, I'm not aware. But I haven't had Church's chicken since the '80s, so I don't know whether. For some reason, I always think Popeyes was like is like the predecessor. Like I always think for some reason Church's chicken was the predecessor of Popeye's chicken because I don't remember what it tastes like, but I'm sort of thinking that Church's chicken tasted like Popeye's chicken. I would say Popeyes though, but if I had to choose, I would say. But if I didn't have to choose either of them, I would choose something. I would choose something completely different. Mr. Bridge just saying says, "Where are you from?" Maryland, United States. Omar says, "You talking about making money? Do you remember the guy Anthony Bourdain? He was a chef and restaurant. He had millions of dollars and he deleted himself. You never know what's going on with somebody. True, but the money wasn't the cause of his self deletion. He was dealing with clinical depression, something that I've also dealt with and deal with, which is why I constantly exercise. He didn't. Well, I can't say he didn't do that, but um, you asked me what my wish was. Like I said, one of them would be a trillionaire. Again, with unlimited, being a trillionaire will make you have virtually unlimited resources. And look, as much as I feel bad for the guy taking his own life, when you're a celebrity and you have multi millions at your grasp, you have the ability to go and seek help. Whereas you have poor people to deal with this all the time, and when they have meltdowns, they usually end up homeless or in prison. So I can't feel but too bad for celebrities when they have these same problems that poor people have, but they have the resources to take care of them. Agnes says because I'm having headaches now. When I was away, it was so relaxing. Now it's like walking on eggshells. I don't. So you gotta learn how to block people out, Agatha. Maybe get some earbuds, some iPods or some Ray Buds, and turn them or what could the Raycon earbuds or something like that, or the the whatever the iPod version is. I mean, not the iPod, the I'm talking about the iPhone versions of those. Put those in and ignore people if you can at work. If not, it's different for me. At the end of the day, people don't bother me because I know I can kick their ass. Like when you do Muay Thai, you have a certain cockiness about you because you're just like, I'm not worried about this guy. I could fuck him up anytime I want to. I could just I could end this whole man's career just by sending a flying knee to his face right now. So he's sitting there talking about, why didn't you get this done? I'm just thinking, dude, I could just straight kick you in the face right now. like, like, with it might be different for guys, Agatha, but I don't know. It's a certain cockiness, like knowing Muay Thai and just knowing I could defend myself, knowing that someone talking shit to me, I could just beat the fuck out of them. Makes me not take them as seriously if they try to cause me stress, because I know at any time I could just stop this whole situation from happening by throwing a nice little elbow, knee, or kick their way. like I'm telling you, people in combat sports, and I know probably particularly in Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, probably look probably will go into a given environment and just look around like I could take every single one of these motherfuckers in this room if I wanted to, and that sort of outlook would be like it makes you kind of stress free because you're like I'm you're like shit. I'm in better shape than everyone in this room. I bet you I could beat every single motherfucker in here. um, Omar says, I don't know if it's true, but they said there's a pill that will make you super smart and you will figure out everything. No, I think you watched that movie with with um, Bradley Cooper. There is a medicine that's loose on which that movie is loosely based, and it was originally made for people who suffered from from being uh, what do you call people who always fall asleep? I can't remember the name. A hy- hy- not hypochondriac. What is it called? Narcolepsy. Like Jay-Z said, "Mom is a narcolepsy, always sleeping on hove." But anyway, so it was originally developed to be an anti-narcoleptic drug, but what they found out is that it could also be used as a nootropic or smart drug nootropic, because it can help you focus, it can keep you up. So a lot of college students 10 years ago were taking it to stay up all night and study, and also they helped you hyper focus, and it actually increased, yeah, like your ability to learn and retain information for given periods of time. So I forgot the name of the drug. I was about to say Stratera, but no, Stratera is an ADHD medicine, so that's something different. But um, so what a lot of college students would do, they would lie and go to doctors and say they wanted to it prescribed as a for either narcolepsy or that they have shift shift work sleep syndrome. Basically, people who work overnight and because of that suffer, um, poor sleep. So um, students were doing that, and like I said, people were using this as a nootropic. I'm not so sure if it's used as much anymore because this was like a thing from like 10 years ago. I haven't heard much about it in the since. I remember I tried to get it once when I went to the hospital. Instead, they just prescribed me an antidepressant. I was like, I don't need an antidepressant. And plus, the antidepressant they gave me just helped you sleep. I was like, I'm trying to do the opposite of sleep. I'm trying to stay up. Like I wanted it to test it out to see if it actually made me smarter. Because at the time I was trying to be a freelance writer 10 years ago, and I wanted to see if it would help me in in that endeavor. But in any case, the movie that Bradley Cooper starred in with Robert De Niro, where he was taking this drug that made him smarter, that is science fiction. But there is, like I said, a anti-narcoleptic drug that is somewhat of a nootropic, but nowhere near the the fantastical aspects of that movie, which they then made into a TV show as well. Um, Another nootropic people aren't aware of is creatine. Even though creatine was originally used by a lot of people to work out, they found out that a side effect of creatine actually is that it does help you focus and retain information. Like it's a nootropic. It can be used as a nootropic uh, drug, and of course the classic one is caffeine. So, but yeah, there's nothing there's no such drug out there that will make you figure out everything. That's pure sci-fi. Carrie Zillis says Omar, Chester Barrington, and Chris Cornell also super rich and famous and ended their own life. Okay, guys, you guys are being a bit morbid. Okay, um, being rich and ending your life are not high are not positive correlates of each other. Poor people end their lives too, as well as wealthy people and super wealthy people. That's the point. Was originally he said, "What will be your one wish?" So I will wish for something that would be phenomenal, like like basically something that was a superpower. And I said being a trillionaire would be tantamount to having a superpower, which like in the movie Justice League, when Bruce Wayne joked with the Flash, he said, "So you're just a regular guy?" He said, "What is your su-" He said, "What's your superpower?" He said, "I'm a billionaire," because being super wealthy is almost like tantamount to a superpower. Because with virtually unlimited resources, what can you not do? Being a multi-billionaire, so it's not a huge leap to go from multi-billionaire to trillionaire. So I would choose trillionaire. Well, like I said, the other two I would choose if not trillionaire would be either super speed or cosmic level intelligence. So, anyway, Omar says, just when I was in high school, I looked like Chris Cornell. I don't even know who that is. Carrie says he was brilliant. Omar says, how about don't let the cat bite your leg? Hmm, I don't know what that means. Agnes says, I just cry. I mean, if they stress you out, can you not like take a break so that people aren't stressing you? Aiden says, greetings from Arizona. What's up, Aiden? Carrie says, Agatha, me too. Guys, when people are bothering you, I don't like, so I don't know in what realm you guys work, like what sort of industry you work, like whether you can take breaks to get away from problematic people, whether it's your boss or coworkers, I don't know. What I will say though is implement some sort of physical exercise regimen into your lifestyle, and that will help you be more able to cope with difficult people because you're just we're never going to get away from dealing with difficult people, but what we can do is improve ourselves so that we can more easily handle difficult people. Like I said, at the end of the day, I'm not worried about too many people because I know I can beat the shit out of them. So they may have more money than me and they may have more powerful positions than me, but I can F you up. So I function on a primal level. Like at the end of the day, I don't care what your position is and how much you make. Can you fuck me up? If not, I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear you yelling at me because you can take it but so far until I decide to end this conversation with a nice placed knee to the temple. Ooh wee. Omar says, "Yeah, I know, but I think that mental health is something that is looked down upon, people don't like to talk about and don't want to reach out for help. Well, depending on what stage of mental health you're in, you may not have the ability to seek help. But if you do, do so. However, again, like I said, I would say first implement exercise into your lifestyle, because a lot of people who have these mental health breakdowns are not physically active. You can look at them. You can tell, like, most of the people who have who have these mental breakdowns aren't physically healthy. How many times do you see someone who's built like Superman having a breakdown? Not very often. Or someone who can do ultra marathons like David Goggins. They're not breaking down. Uh, Carries narcolepsy. Yep, thank you. I picked it up, but thank you for calling it out for me. Omar says, if I told my boss I'm feeling depressed and I want to end myself, he would fire me. Well, yeah, because that's not something appropriate. You tell your bosses that you want to end your life, especially depending on where you work. That might be a very bad thing if you work on something like law enforcement or military or security. Like, no. um, Again, I'm pretty sure most of you out there who is talking about you have you guys feel these emotional breakdowns. I'm pretty sure you guys aren't physically active. Implement exercise into your daily routine. You will feel better and you will deal with people better. Not like Adderall. Adderall is for like ADHD. Adderall is just speed. The drug that I'm talking about, I can't remember the name of it right now. It'll probably come to me later. Um, it's not used. It's not a form of speed, and it's not used for ADHD or ADD. Like I said, it's used as either as an anti-narcoleptic or for people who suffer from shift work sleep syndrome. Limitless is the movie. Thank you, Pale Horse. Omar says the people that all fall asleep. You talking about leprosy? No, narcolepsy. Leprosy is something completely different. He said, "Well, yeah, I know what you're saying." Running Man says, spell the word run. Mm. So Omar says, but when you wake up in the morning or whenever you wake up, are you happy to greet the day or do you enjoy life a lot? People do not. I don't care about things like that. I just don't care about stuff like that. I don't care about being, I don't greet the day and I don't search to be happy. Men should not be looking like, I'm sorry. So with this International Men's Day that just passed, but so we're going to talk about masculinity. Men need to be more masculine. The original this is why the original topic I was going to do until I realized it was International Men's Day was I was going to say we need to bring back we need to bring bullying back. We need to, which is basically another way of saying we need to bring back masculinity and problem solving, social problem solving skills. I was bullied. A lot of people were bullied back in the 80s and the 90s. And I'm not talking about mean words on Facebook. Like physically bullied, like could get beat up, sort of stuff. It taught you to adapt. It taught you how to deal with people. It taught you to be mentally tough. Something a lot of people lack today. Which so again, that was going to be. I might do that tomorrow. Bring bullying back. Um, guys, you should guys should not be searching to be happy. Happiness is not a it's not it's not a permanent mental state. Okay, like you don't walk around just being happy all day, all the time. It's some Happiness is usually a byproduct of accomplishing some objective of, you know, experiencing a certain event, but it's not something that should be sought after. If you want to If you want to ensure that you're a miserable person, it would be by searching to be happy all the time. That will lead to misery because you're not supposed to be happy all the time. That's not how it works. If you were happy all the time, it would cease to feel like happiness. Happiness is a byproduct of, like I said, accomplishing certain objectives, experiencing certain events, that sort of thing. It's not meant to be lived in an indefinite period of time. So I don't look to be happy when I wake up. I don't greet the day. I don't care about any of that shit. Um, I get up, I'm looking to what do I need to get done today? Okay, I need to work out, I need to go to work, I need to eat, I need to talk to wifey, need to make some plans to travel. I want to watch some anime. Um, uh, hey, can I find a collectible that I want on eBay? Um, what's a way to make some more money? How's my what's my YouTube doing? Like as far as my content creation, what do I need to do to improve that, grow it, blah blah. Like these are the certain sort of thoughts that I have. Nowhere in my train of thoughts do I think, okay, how can I be happy today? That's not how I think. Like I don't think that's health. I don't think that's healthy for neither men nor women to think, how can I make myself happy today? I don't think that's healthy. Yeah, music can definitely help. That's why oftentimes during my live streams, I actually play lo-fi music or some sort of soothing, relaxing music in the background because it sometimes helps with the ambience of of the conversations. Right now, I'm playing this 2 hour epic and powerful anime music collection by this artist called the Soul of Wind. Uh, he said, "Yes, I think you're right." Hamad Aliyami says, "Hey, what's going on, man? What's up, Hamad?" But yeah, usually in the morning, I'm thinking I want to go run. Like I want to go take a morning run, do my road work. Then I'm thinking, hey, I'm hungry. I want to eat something. Then I'm thinking, what's the wifey doing? Checking up on her. Um, then I'm thinking about work, stressing about that. Um, Stuff like that. But you should not seek happiness as an end into itself, or you'll always be miserable because you'll never have a permanent state of happiness because that's not how that sort of mental state works, or mental event rather. Um, Agatha says, yes, I love music. What type of music you like, Agatha? Omar says, oh, yes, I live in Chicago. I got stomped out several times. That's rough, bro. Like I said, when I was a kid, that's what made me want to learn martial arts. Actually, no, it wasn't even up to me. Like when I was like 7 years old, my parents forced me into martial arts. They was like, we want you to learn how to defend yourself and we want you to learn how to swim. So they took me to the YMCA, made me take martial arts lessons and made me take swimming lessons. So that's two things I can still do today: fight and swim. So I actually would like to take some lessons like my wife did and take some free diving lessons. That would be pretty cool. She actually did some free diving lessons. I want to do the same thing. She might go back. If she does, I'm gonna go with her, do some free diving lessons. Omar says, yes, Agatha, it is the true healing power music. But yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. So yeah, Chicago is rough. I I live in Illinois, but I don't live in Chicago. I live like a probably like an hour away from Chicago. I lived in Will County, and like well, I lived in University Park and Park Forest. Park Forest is Will County, but it's right on the border of uh, right. It's right on the border of Cook County. So I think University Park is in between both Will County and Cook County, if I remember correctly. Oh my says, how long do you work out before you go to work? As long as I want to. Now, no. My my runs are typically an hour to an hour 15 minutes long, depending on how far I run. I run between 10 and 13 kilometers every day, or if you're metric phobic, 6 to 8 miles a day. Um, and then I usually do like about a half an hour of martial arts, and then stretching. And but I work from home, so that's convenient. But even when I didn't work from home, I still did that. I would just have to get up earlier and then commute it to work, usually on a bus or Uber. Didn't have a car, which helps out because that means I don't have those expenses, which helped me save money so I could travel more. So people at work are always like, "Man, how you always able to travel?" I'm like, "Easy. I don't buy a bunch of expensive clothes like they spent all their money on like Jordans and expensive clothes." It's like, why are you coming to work dressed to the nines to impress home in a call center? Two, I didn't have a bunch of babies out of wedlock to take care of. Three, I didn't spend all my money on weed or buying pussy. Um, and four, I didn't have a car that sucked all my extraneous money, all my discretional income from me, worrying about gas, car note, insurance, um, the eventual like maintenance and breakdowns. So that's how I had money to travel. I remember one girl in this one place I worked at 8 years ago. She was like, "You're in your 30s." She's like, "How come you don't have any children?" And I looked at her. I was like, "Condoms." She was like, "Oh, what you mean? Oh, like the fuck?" um, but yeah, Agatha's laughing. Omar says, "Now you'll never have complete happiness." No, he said, "No, you will never have complete happiness, but it is very nice when you see family members or friends or somebody and they are nice to you. It gives you a very good feeling." I think you misunderstand the nature of happiness. Like I said, it's happiness is a mental state. You could say a feeling, but I think most feelings are just another way of talking about mental states, right? A different, just a subset of mental states. I don't want to get too far into that because then we'll have to start discussing the philosophy of mind and stuff like that. But for the nuts, we'll just say like feelings. Let's just call them a type of mental state um, or pro, propositional attitude. um, the, what I would say about that is, like I said, these aren't permanent. Like individual mental states are not permanent states of affairs. So there's no such thing as complete happiness because that's not how happiness, by its very definition, works. It's not meant to be a sort of permanent, like mental attitude. Mental like happiness is usually a feeling or other mental state that is a byproduct of certain chains of events. Just like being said, it's not meant to be a permanent state of affairs either, which is why if you are permanently said you have clinical depression, that's not meant to be something you experience. Just like, just like depression is unhealthy, so is so is the opposite of that, which is a manic state or mania. Not supposed to be permanently like just giddy. That would be a manic state. You don't want that either. That's people. Anyone who suffers from manic episodes have bipolar disorder, and you can have bipolar disorder even without the depressive part. It's just having the manic episodes. So these are breakdowns of mental health. If you are experiencing some sort of permanent state of euphoria, which is a manic episode, or if you're suffering a long episode of sadness, which is a depressive episode. So, um, Shane says hello from New Zealand. What's up, Shane? Michael DeGato says hi. What's up, Michael? Omar said that's cool. Shane says had to deal with an illegal street race last night, and now I'm doing the cops' job of getting evidence of the incident. Shaking my head. I should get paid for that, to be honest. Yeah, or I wouldn't do it, to be honest. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do anything supererogatory. That is anything above and beyond what I, as a individual citizen, should be required to do. So, but on that note, guys, it's almost 4 hours in. It's well past midnight here where I live, Eastern Standard Time. So I'm gonna go because this is kind of gone askew from the original topic. I'm gonna say yes. My friend is always asking me for money at Foot Locker. Just say I don't got it. Just say, bro, I don't got it. That's it. Just say, bro, I don't got it. I'm struggling just like you. That's it. Tell them that. Just say, hey, bro, I don't got it. I'm struggling just like you are. Agatha says, yes, I'm getting very sleepy also. Yeah, hit me up when we get off, Agatha, okay? Shane says, only two cameras. It's a small town. I have to do it myself. Unfortunately, I wouldn't. But if that's if you want to take that upon yourself, like, what is this? Some Netflix show with a Muppet or Muppets? Cowboy cheerleaders? Spellbound. Never heard of that. Oh, those are two different shows. Never mind. Anyway, um, Braulio says, yo, sorry guys, I'm out. If there's any other comments you guys want to make or questions, you can leave it in the comment section. If people are watching this on replay, same thing. You guys can leave me a question in the comment section. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot. It helps me grow this channel algorithm. As I grow, I can do more things besides just these vertical live streams. I'll do some PC live streams. I'll do more long form content, which I haven't done much of in a while. I'll start doing some more long form content, but of a higher productive quality. Um, of course, I would continue with my YouTube shorts and my members only content. If you want to show support, you can sign up for a membership. Starts at $2.99, less than the Happy Meal. Um, I'm also willing to take any Cash Apps or Venmo, or you can buy me a coffee. All of those will be linked in the description once I upload this stream. So that's for the people watching this on replay, or people watching right now and you want to maybe donate, but you don't see that right now because you won't see it until I upload it. Um, but you can also leave me a super thanks as well. It, currently in the chat, you can leave a super donation or a super sticker. But once this is done once this is uh, uploaded and you're watching on a replay, you can send me a super thanks. Okay. Uh, YouTube has some other stuff coming pretty soon, but they haven't released it yet. But they've told it to content creators of a new thing where they can seek um, monetary compensation for the content they create, which I think is going to be called gems or jewels or something like that. Um, I'm sure they're going to release more information about it soon, but for the but as for right now, like I said, if you want to show me support, you can do it through memberships or super thanks, or you can go into my links and send me like a Cash App or buy me a coffee. But if you can't do any of that, just a like and subscribe would be perfect. And you can share the videos. And you can also hit the bell for the notifications on future videos. Usually you won't see the bell notification for my live streams because I do those. I kind of just wing it with the live streams. But for the long form content, you'll get those notifications. All right, so that's it for me, guys. Let me answer these last few questions and I'm out. Shane says the local council knows about this problem, but they don't do anything about prevention. Well, that's cool. I mean, I you kind of brought this into the stream, and I'm not exactly sure what it's referring to, but do what you think you need to do within reason. Omar says, just I hate that song by Pharrell called Because I'm Happy. He said, this is the stupidest song I've ever heard. Going to prison and singing a song with somebody that will slap you. I, I actually said this on Facebook like probably like 9 years ago when that song first came out. That song was so annoying. I hated it. I didn't like it until I saw it on the Despicable Me, and it fit the movie, but the song itself was annoying. So I agree with you. Shane says not too hard to get speed bumps down the road. Again, you kind of took me by surprise with that topic because I don't know where that came from unless we discussed it on a previous stream. Agatha says bye, good night. Good night, Agatha. Hit me up. I'm about to leave as well. Okay. So guys, I'm out. Bon nuit to everyone. Um, if it's nighttime for you guys, for people, um, if it's daytime, salut, comme ça va. um, so I'm out, guys. Talk to you later. Thank you. And again, like I said, if anyone had any other comments or thoughts or questions, just leave it in the comment section. I'll check them. Appreciate it though.